guess what? We have a special guest. Anyone can take a guess who it is?
Hi, I'm Gabriel. I'm the TO of the Runex Team Championship. I thought I'd jump on the stream and hang out with Gemma and say hi to everybody.
Yeah, so we're going to be commentating the last game of day one. And so we got our matchup sorted out. So we have got Hayden Walker versus Zenith Mills. So the Savage Northman versus, what's the...
Their team name is Toasty.
Toasty. I was going to say Tasty, but I knew it wasn't right. So while we got the selfie cam on and they're sorting out their deployment and the scenario, we will go through the list. So Gabe is going to be lucky enough to go through Hayden's list.
Alrighty, so Hayden is bringing Hedon Knights of Slaanesh from the mortal realm of Akshi in the Godseeker host. So he's running a pretty heavy mortal army. He's not leaning too heavily on the demons. You're not seeing those keepers of secrets and everything that just about every other Slaanesh army has. So he is starting off with Archaon. He's got a Lord on Demonic Mount who has the cameo of the Dark Prince. He's got a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on a steed, a Lord of Chaos on foot who is his general. He's got the Thermal Rider Cloak and Into the Fray, which is the first attack of the game, always hits. Hold on. So it's an auto 6 to hit, which is pretty spicy. He's got a couple of little combos there that he likes to use.
Yep.
And then he has 2 Exalted Heroes of Chaos on foot. This is something you don't see a lot, but with how it works, he can pile in twice on the charge, and he can also get a ton of extra attacks if he manages to drop a hero. So there he's got a full roster of 6 heroes, and not surprisingly, he's running them in the Supreme Cyberites Battalion, so he is getting all those extra CPs, and he'll be using them for sure to have an impact on the game. His battle line, he's got 3 units of 5 Chaos Warriors, and then he's got that big unit of 10 Chaos Knights with the glaives.
Yeah, so they're going to be doing some work, I feel.
Absolutely. They're definitely a combo piece. He's got a lot of characters to make sure that they're as efficient as possible, but they're not the only threat. Archaon is in the list, and he can be pretty devastating if he's in the right hands. In some matches, he doesn't do incredibly well, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see. He might have some tricks up his sleeve that we don't know about.
Let's hope he can bring it to the table this game, and we can see some tricks from the old guy who just ruined the world. Basically.
Pretty much, basically, yeah.
So, in saying that, we'll go to Mr. Zenith Mills. He's playing Feck. So this is an interesting list because everyone knows that I have delved in Feck before, but I usually take a court of some sort.
Yes.
So Zenny has actually taken the Feast Day, so that is no court whatsoever. So the Feast Day does allow him to be able to use the free pile in and attack for free once per turn, which I think is pretty awesome. And basically from there, he has got a Cryptophanal Courtier, which is the general, which basically means that the Flayers are battle. So we'll get to them in a minute. And then he's also got Dark Wizardry, so it makes the Courtier a wizard, and he knows all the spells that the Archregent can cast as well. So that is also really good because we know the Archregent spell is quite nice. So we have got a double Archregent. So he's got 2 of those bad boys. So summoning is going to be a bit of a cruel bitch, I'd say there.
I would say so.
He's got a few choices since the Archregent can summon whatever he likes. So one of the Archregents has got the Dermal Robe. So the Dermal Robe is +1 to cast, unbind, and dispel. So that's pretty nice as well. So he's just trying to get his spells to be a little bit more reliable. And if he has to dispel an endless spell, be a little bit more reliable there as well. So he's got a Abhorrent Guild King on Royal Terrorgeist, which is I've seen in just about every single Feck list.
It's a bit of a staple, yeah.
And he's got the Blade of Symmetry, so that is +1 damage to the rider's attack. So he'll be doing 2 damage apiece, which is pretty spicy. And the Gruesome Bite, which again we see on just about every Terrorgeist, so he can re-roll failed hit rolls with the mouth.
Absolutely.
Which is quite nasty because that's where the 6 mortal wounds comes from. As battle line, he's got 9 crit players, 3 crit players, 3 crit players, and in the battalion of of the Dead Watch. So that Dead Watch is my personal favourite battalion at the moment. So it basically allows one of those units of flayers to be able to pile in and attack in the hero phase for free.
Yeah.
And so that brings him to 1980, and he also has bought a command point as well. So he's sitting pretty tight there. I have noticed that he doesn't have the Ether Quartz brooch, so farming CPs is going to be a little bit hard to do. Hopefully he can choose his feast day pile in and attack wisely.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think with feast day and the what's the flesh eater called, throne?
The carnal throne.
The carnal throne. Between them, that's giving him a lot of free CP to begin with. So he might actually... Is that right? I don't know.
Well, the free CP will only come from the foot sloggers. So the arch regents are going to be the only two guys that are going to be able to use their CP for free, which is still good because it can have either 40 ghouls coming on the table, 2 units of 3 flayers if it goes that way, or maybe a unit of 3 and 20 ghouls, or he can also summon on a courtier as well. So he's got a choice of one of those 3 with each of those arch regents, and they're the ones that do it for free. So the Terrorgeist still has a summoning, but unfortunately he's going to pay for it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So
there you go.
Having the extra one's going to help him out with that a little bit. So we'll see how he spends them.
All right.
But,
so you're seeing... No, you're right. You're seeing a Court of Delusion Feast Day Flesh Eater Quartz army. You're seeing a Slaanesh army that doesn't have any keepers. There's no epitome. There's none of the usual suspects.
No, there isn't.
In a scenario like Star Strike, do you have any early picks? I know it's hard to pick with a scenario like Star Strike because it's so random, but...
so they both have a lot of movement. The Feck doesn't really like a lot of damage though, because the flayers have only got a 5-up save, and if anything's got any rends, they don't really survive very well against that. So I feel like he's going to have to rush in and try and do a lot of damage first. And unfortunately, I think the way that Hayden's playing this list is he does the same thing. But better.
Yes.
So
it's certainly going to be a challenge.
I think it's going to be a slight challenge for the Feck to start off with, and if he hasn't played much Slaanesh, I think he's going to be taken by surprise about how quick some of these units can get across the table.
I think it might come as a bit of a blessing not having those keepers in there to interact as much in the activation wars. It'll be... I mean, when I say they're not in there yet, there is, of course... a great deal of depravity to be had from this Flesh Eater Court army. You do have a lot of wounds in pretty much every single model, so if he plays it right, he's going to be racking up that tally pretty quickly.
Oh, definitely, especially if there's going to be 19 depravity points in Archaon if he gets taken down. But Feck is also just feeding him depravity points because all those guys there are multi-wound.
Yes.
So his battle line's multi-wound. Everything's going to be just feeding those depravity points. So
absolutely.
It looks like those guys down there are getting their models out and possibly starting to deploy. So what we might do is switch over to the actual table itself, and you'll have to give me a couple of minutes just to reset all the names and everything like that. But we'll head there now.
Excellent. Yeah, I think both of these guys have had a pretty good run at the event so far. I know Hayden had a bit of a run-in with Dave Kerr in round 1, which usually doesn't end well for anyone. Dave's a bit of a machine when it comes to Age of Sigmar.
Yes.
And so he managed to land a win over Hayden. But the important thing to remember is at a team event, it's not always about, individual players winning or losing. Hayden put up a good fight against Dave Kerr and opened up some opportunities for the rest of his team. So he certainly is not causing too much pain for his team. And Zenith has been captaining his team incredibly well. He's been playing that Dead Watch list for a little while now. He was all aboard that destruction train, but since jumping over to Flesh Eater Courts, he's been loving it and he's been in his element. I think it's just given him a whole bunch more weapons in his arsenal to be able to deal with those other top tier armies now.
Yeah, it's nice to play something different. It's just a refresher too. It's like a
Absolutely.
breath of fresh air. It's like, this is nice. As much as with Nurgle, I haven't played them for a while, but they still hold a special place in my heart, and I will go back to them at some stage. But you just reach that point where you've gone, I really need to try something else. Because not only do you enjoy playing it, but you also understand how the army works. So when you have to compete against it in the future, if you are playing something different or the same sort of army, you know how they work.
Definitely. And I think it's one of those things, the more you play something, the less you're leaving up to, guesswork, and the more reliable you can be with your estimations. So I think sticking at an army is definitely improves your skill as a player, I think, rather than chopping and changing.
We do say that, but then Michael's still a shit player and he plays everything, so, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. So, and his defence, he's lost a few brain cells over the years. I'm sure everyone can agree with that.
Oh, dear.
So it does, have they decided that they're deploying yet, or what's going on down there?
So it looks like they're setting up. They've got Hayden has set up a bit of a screen with his Chaos Warriors, and then he's not making any grey areas in his deployment zone. He has dropped those Knights and Archaon square in the centre. I think he's pretty confident in the mobility of his list and being able to react to where these objectives drop, and he doesn't want to spread out too far and overextend. So hopefully that carries through the game and he can keep his game plan together, because it is easy to get tempted with Slaanesh with that really high movement, is just to slingshot into things, get easy kills, but then maybe leave yourself a little unsupported and isolated.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing that both players are going to have to remember, is they both have summoning power, so whether or not they want to bring, especially with the Flesh Eater Course, they've got it probably a little bit easier at the moment because it's a command point, whereas whether the Slaanesh is relying on depravity points. So with the effect, if Hayden's not too careful with how he deploys, it's always nice to have a sneaky sort of sideboard flank or maybe a rear board summon, just to apply a bit of pressure. So even if they are a sacrificial unit, it's still something that someone has to deal with. So they always have to think about that as well in this sort of scenario when you are playing those armies. But it does look like Hayden so far has got like a rectangle of models. It also looks like he's left a gap on that right-hand side there, whether or not he's looking to put something there or whether it's just to storm those Knights through, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. He's his list is only a 4-drop. Sorry, it's a 5-drop, my mistake. And so he might be wanting to make sure that he doesn't box those Knights in. It's just a matter of...
That's devastating when you do that to yourself.
Oh, it is the worst, yeah. When you set up the perfect screen, and then that screen does everything in its power to prevent you from doing whatever you want. Yes. It's the best thing ever. So he might be leaving that alley open. He might also be pretty confident that he might, he probably won't get hit with the Knights if Zenith does take turn 1. So I think with the distance that they've got at the moment, he might be feeling a bit comfortable leaving that screen wide open. And if the Knights are in combat, that's kind of not the worst thing in the world either, is it?
I think they're built around getting into combat because there is certain buffs that we have gone through with the list run through, but we will definitely approach them again when they're being used. Those Knights, I'm pretty sure I've heard in other games that they can be pretty punchy.
Yeah, they can be. They can be devastating. We've seen those big blocks of Knights used in a couple of different lists here. There's a few Nurgle lists which naturally lean towards the available bonuses to hit for Blades of Putrefaction, but it will be interesting to see how that unit goes in a Slaanesh allegiance.
Yeah, definitely, and Archaon.
And Archaon, of course, yes.
So Hayden is taking first turn, so he will get an extra CP at this stage, and then we'll have to see whether he spends it on anything. And he's starting with 4 CP because he's also done the Sybarites battalion.
Yes, of course.
And he's obviously got a battalion as well. So,
and he'll also be, I would imagine he'd be throwing the, what's it called? The cameo of the Dark Prince. That's always a popular one to burn for that command point, and then to throw that onto the Fane to get those rerolls to hit. those one-use artifacts are very, very attractive when it comes to that that killer combo.
Oh, baby. You only have to get it off once, and it's devastating if it works.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
And free CP in a Slaanesh army is always handy.
Well, why not? They get depravity like it's nothing, so why not have some CP like it's nothing, really?
That's it. That's it. Wouldn't want to deprive them of anything.
No, of course not.
So we've seen Zenith stacking the top right side of the board pretty heavily with his flayers.
Yep.
Are you expecting that to be... Do you think that's a counter deployment? Is he just stacking one side of the board and hoping that's where the objectives drop? What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, he's taking a big risk on that, I think so, but he also has, like, those flayers move 12 inches as well, so it's not like they're incredibly slow. I'm just getting some information from the table, sorry everybody.
Yep.
So the Chaos Sorcerer Lord has done the reroll hits, wounds, and save rolls on 1 on the Knights.
Demonic power?
Yep.
So that's going on the Knights, so he's already building that combo into what will hopefully be a very, very powerful unit.
Yes, definitely. I'm pretty sure being in Slaanesh, those Knights are quite fast.
Yeah.
And I think they can run and charge, or there are some sneaky sort of shenanigans I'm sure they can do, because I've seen them get across the table like 30 inches, I swear.
Yeah, so...
It feels like it.
It certainly feels like it, yeah. The Lord of Chaos on foot, his command ability if he's Slaanesh is he can give another Slaanesh mortal unit run and charge. Yeah. So that does add a huge amount of mobility. With all these CP that he has, he can make that an automatic 6. So they're going 18 inches straight off the bat.
That's right. So we'll have to find out whether he decides to spend a CP to make those... He's not spending any CP at this stage.
He's not spending any CP.
Whoa,
okay.
Exciting stuff.
All right.
What's he doing?
I don't know.
He
must.
ruined my plan.
That has a bit.
Has ruined my plan.
I wonder if he's trying to play cagey for this first turn, trying to lure some things out.
Possibly, yeah. Because as I said before, like if he can do that, I think that would out-survive the flayers.
Yeah. Especially with these Chaos Warriors that he's got right up in his grill. If he pushes them forward to catch any screens, if he can position well, he could be in a place where the counter punch with these Knights and Archaon could be absolutely devastating and give him that depravity pool to summon in some of these demon units that he's got in his case. Because there is certainly a lot of killing power there, and there's a lot of depravity up for grabs. There's not a single model in the Flesh Eater Court's army that's not going to be handing over fistfuls of depravity.
Alright, so we've also got the warriors in front of Archaon have Mystic Shield cast on them. So they're all-in-ones to their saves as well.
Alright.
So I'm pretty sure he's trying to it sort of sounds like he's trying to maintain some sort of shield there.
Do you think...
Michael's bringing us chocolate.
Well...
So I'll just leave that over there for you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've already had a strawberry milkshake.
Fair enough.
Sweet.
Excellent. Now, do you reckon Mystic Shield is much use on those warriors in the face of a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, knowing the mortal wound output that they can put out?
No, because that's only 10 wounds there.
Yeah.
So it depends on how many 6s he rolls, I should say.
Because if he pops 2 6s, that unit's just gone straight up. So Mystic Shield, I probably would have, I don't know whether he might have been better off stacking it on those Knights, making sure that that unit has as much protection as it can. Because it's more likely to take those wounds from the flayers that he will get an armor save against.
Yeah, well, he's just spending a CP there as well, so I had to change that down. So he spent a CP to make a 6-inch run on one of the Exalted Heroes of Chaos as well. So maybe that's to try and get him out there or do some buffs. Not that they buff much.
So those exalted Heroes of Chaos, they're a bit of a dark horse in the army. They're these handy little 5 wound heroes that can dish out a horrific amount of damage for what they are, because they can, on the turn they charge, they can pile in twice in the combat phase. Now that's not you don't pile in immediately for a second time. From what I understand, it's a separate activation, but you do get 2 activations with it. And if they kill a hero, they can actually get an incredible amount of attacks coming back out. So they have the potential to do some serious damage. The only thing that I don't like about them is that they have those D6 attacks. So there's a huge variability in that, which is inconsistent to say the least.
Yeah. So they can either just go off and do tons of damage or not much at all. Especially if they do get to double their attacks and double piling. If they do roll well on that D6, it's pretty brutal.
Definitely. And you can see Hayden's kind of... He's knowing that he's not going to be coming in, he's potentially coming into a double turn. He is being a bit cagey, especially with those knights. He doesn't want to overcommit too much and leave them wide open, because a Flesh Eater Court's army probably does have the killing power to slam into that and cripple or kill it.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. So we've just been told by the table boss that he's just measuring the threat range, or was measuring the threat range of those flayers on that flanking side, just to make sure that his knights are going to be out of that danger zone. So that is cagey. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing is something that the game will tell us in the next couple of turns. Because sometimes being stuck in your deployment zone and having those guys come across at you and you're stuck there just means that you can't get to those objectives unless you retreat, of course.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
We'll have to see what happens there, because I think those knights work best when they're on the charge.
Yeah, absolutely. The glaives on the charge are pretty brutal. They can kick out a lot of damage. So he is zoning out that side. You can see he's got his 9-inch measuring sticks. That is one of his heroes that he's using to make sure that no cheeky summons come in from that corner. He's basically making sure that there is a tiny gap in the corner, but he's limiting that as much as he possibly can to ensure that if an objective does drop there, that he's not just giving it away.
That's right, yes. That's the thing when you're playing such an elite army, it's very hard to knock the table out from the summoning, like if your opponent has a summoning army.
And it does feel a little bit unnatural using a hero as a zone out piece, but I guess in that army he kind of has to, because the Chaos Warriors, he needs them as screens, especially in this matchup.
Yeah, and they're only units of 5.
Yeah,
so a lot of chaff
their time in this world is probably not too good.
So yeah, but honestly though, like with the Archaon and the Knights, there's a lot of punch power, but I still feel like the Fett can probably deal some damage if he wants to. I just imagine what it would be like if the Terrorgeist got involved with Archaon, especially like taking some mortal wounds. I know he has a 5-up mortal wound save from his shield, but still.
Yes, but a 5-up, there's quantity has its own quality, and the quantity of mortal wounds that one of those Terrorgeists can kick out is pretty horrific.
Well, I think someone said on average they can do about 45 wounds.
That is disgusting.
That is disgusting. And then, Archregent can give them extra attacks, and then they're re-rolling their bites with the gruesome bite. And even the guy on top's more dangerous. Like, he's got the Blade of Symmetry, so he's doing an extra damage.
That is true, yeah. Because usually with the Terrorgeist, it's really that bite that you're worried about, but all of his other attack profiles are actually going to do a fair bit of damage. They're not playing around. He's not limited by a court in what artifacts he has to take. And so, knowing that he's got those activations up his sleeve, he knows that he can just push through an absolute ton of damage with pretty much every attack profile on his War Scroll.
Oh, definitely. So, we've now come to Feck turn 1. So, I'll just adjust the CPs here. And yep. Alright, so I've got the CP down pat, and Zenith just tried to cast the plus movement spell, so that's basically, so if you have a wounds characteristic of 6 or less, that unit can be, basically, the spell can be cast on them, if I can speak English, and then their wounds characteristic gets added on to their move characteristic, so that means players can actually go an extra 4 inches, so that would be a 16-inch move. And Unholy Vitality was just tried to be cast as well, and it was just stopped by Hayden with a cast unbinding roll of an 8. So no magic has gone off for the Fake player.
Oh, jeez.
You can have nothing.
No, apparently not.
Yes.
which is like when you look at Hayden's list, it's not very magic heavy. He does have Prismatic Palisade as an endless spell, which could come into it later, but against an army that can, for the most part, just fly, I do wonder how much Prismatic Palisade will play a part, unless he can tag that debuff, but then you're rolling dice to try and even trigger that, so its effectiveness may be limited. We'll see how that goes, but he is managing to defend pretty well against the hero phase of Zenith.
So far, but there's only so much you can stop because the Archregions still have two spells each. So Unholy Vitality is the 5-up aftersave from the Terrorgeist, which was dispelled. But then the Archregent managed to get his War Scroll spell off on the big unit at 9, so they've got extra attacks at the moment. And then a unit also has Mystic Shield on it as well. So they are re-rolling ones, so 5-up re-rolling ones, and they've got extra attacks. So I'll have to find out how many extra attacks that unit got on them as well. So
they are kicking out a whole lot of damage, though. If they can get into something, particularly those Chaos Warriors, will just melt in the face of that kind of...
That unit of 9 is very dangerous.
Yes,
so they've
absolutely.
got 4 attacks standard, and now they've got an extra... How many extra attacks?
So we are seeing him he's in kind of the same boat. He's got to weigh up whether he wants to commit and hope for that double turn, knowing that if he doesn't get the double turn, he could be in for a world of pain because those Knights do have the reach to probably counterpunch pretty effectively. It looks like he's just shuffling around a little bit. He's also playing pretty cagey. That's not surprising in a scenario like Star Strike.
Especially because it happens from the second turn, so you're sort of like unsure where stuff's going to be, where to move, you don't really want to engage. So that unit of Flayers only got 1 extra attack, unfortunately, but that's still better than nothing.
That is definitely better than nothing. So yeah, they are both playing it pretty close to the chest in this first turn, just waiting to see where that middle objective drops. The last thing you want to do is commit to a prolonged combat on the wrong side of the table. So they're going to be kind of watching and waiting. The first turn of Star Strike's usually pretty uneventful, especially with these kind of players where they're playing those glass hammer. Well, glass hammer's probably the wrong term, but they're playing those really hard-hitting kind of one-hit wonders where they rush in and do a horrific amount of damage. They don't want to commit too early and waste that.
That's right, yeah. And Feck's probably a bit more, like I think you're right, Feck's probably a little bit more of a glass hammer because their saves on those players is pretty horrendous, like they're a 5-up. So
yeah.
Fleshy flying beasts, basically.
Big old meat bags.
Yeah, so they're just delusions flying around trying to maul people. And unfortunately, with a 5-up save, it doesn't take much to take them off the table. So you really want to choose your combats wisely with how much damage you want to do. So he sort of moved everything back over to that right-hand side except for a unit of 3 players. And now that must have been the end of the turn. And now they're deciding where the first comment comes down, or Star Strike lands, and then we'll move on to priority.
So we are waiting to see where that first objective does land. It's going to be a tricky one. If it lands on that left side of the table, I think certainly turn 2 will be in favour of Hayden because he's a lot more central. He's probably looking at having a little bit more mobility, being able to fence off that objective a bit better. But we are waiting to see exactly where that lands. It looks like
it's nearly dead center.
It looks like it's dropping in the middle of the table, which will certainly make for a bit of a bloodbath, I would imagine.
Because everything's going to be fighting.
That's
center,
it.
front and center.
So it looks like we're rolling for priority coming up, and this will determine whoever can tag that objective is going to get some spicy points. And hopefully be able to, now that they kind of know where the goalposts are in the middle of the table, we'll be looking at what the results are from that.
Oh, okay. So it's pretty funny that the objective has landed right where Hayden has one of his heroes as well. So that's like an exalted guy.
Okay.
But he's won priority, but he's actually given it away.
So he's given the
turn to Zenith.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because what he's basically doing there is he's forcing Zenith to commit if he wants to score that objective. If he wants to get on there and get the points, he's going to have to go in, which puts him in a really bad position, and it also wastes Zenith double turn. So he's coming into the second half of a double turn, but he's not really in a position where he can do much with it.
Yeah, that's correct. Like, I think it takes people off guard when someone throws you the turn too, because you're like, oh shit, like it's my turn. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. And the fact now that, like you said, that Hayden can possibly double turn after this, Zenith's going to be really careful how he plays it out.
Absolutely, because he does have to commit to a degree. He needs that objective, but he also doesn't want to have to go in with anything too valuable, because whatever steps onto that objective is going to get charged in at the bottom of turn 2 when Hayden has his turn. So he's got to be very careful. If I was him, I'd maybe send in one of those little units of flayers just to get the numbers on the objective, understanding that unit will die, and then regrouping from there. I am surprised. I haven't seen... Oh no, sorry, I stand corrected. I've just noticed those flayers coming on the side of each of the board where he's summoned them in.
I'm pretty sure they're the 2 units of 3, and the unit of 9 is up near the Terrorgeist.
Oh, I see.
I haven't seen him actually.
So he hasn't actually summoned anything yet. That's interesting. I don't blame him for that, because as we were saying before, Star Strike can be tricky in that first turn. And when you've got when you have the capability to bring in so many bodies on the board, you don't want to bring them in on a place where you can't take full advantage.
Oh, that's right. And like, as I said before, those guys have got enough movement that I wouldn't blame him either by putting those guys there, because if the scenario had landed in that area, 1, they can cap it, but 2, if they have to move in a slight direction, left or right, probably like towards the middle of the table, they have enough movement to be able to secure that. But it does put them in danger as well. But the Warriors aren't exactly the fastest guys on the planet, but Archaon is. It just means that Hayden has to sort of choose where he wants the bloodbath to begin, I suppose.
Absolutely.
So that unit of 9 up the top right-hand corner with the Terrorgeist, it's got Unholy Vitality on them as well, so they have a 5-up after save. So they'll have a 5-up, 6-up, or whichever way he wants to do that. And they've also got Mystic Shield, so they're re-rolling once to their save. So 5-up, 6-up, re-rolling once, normal.
So he is actually adding a little bit of durability to that unit, which they desperately need.
They need as much help as they can get. And they've also got 2 extra attacks as well. So the Archregent's War Scroll spell has gone off and given them 2 extra attacks. So.
All right, so he is basically looking for a reason to get them into a fight and maul something to death.
Yeah. So that's also a smart idea in the sense that if he does get double turns, those guys will be buffed from here till his next
Absolutely,
turn. So
absolutely.
they're going to be a dangerous unit, and it's really going to make Hayden think, because they've got 4 wounds each.
Yeah.
So not only are they, that's 36 wounds with a 5-up, then depending on if there's any rends, so it could be a 5 or 6-up, then a 5-up Unholy Vitality, then a 6-up Deadless.
Absolutely. And that's a big deterrent as well, especially because Hayden doesn't have any of these heroes with that aura. He doesn't have the keepers that make those guys strike last. There is a risk, if he's not careful, that he will be taking a huge amount of damage if he goes into that unit of 9 and can't put it down in that first activation.
No, because there's a lot of wounds to get through.
There is a lot of wounds.
Don't forget that he has still got Feast Day ability, so he can still pile in an attack for free.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
Those guys have also, so I'm pretty sure one of the Archregents has passed Spectral Host, so as I explained before, that's there's a run and charge spell. So those guys there, if they're wholly within 12 inches, they can run and charge. So basically, if you roll a 6, so they're going to be moving 18 inches if you at best, and then they can charge after that, so they have potential threat range of 30 plays.
Wow, okay.
Roll the best they can roll.
Yeah, that is horrific.
Yeah, so depending, he also has 2 CPs, so he basically can spend one to make that a 6 if he needs to, just to make sure that those guys get across the table and create some havoc there.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's actually I think he's making a very smart move over here. He's moving on the left-hand side of the board. You can see him measuring it at the moment. He's moving that unit of flayers up into the grill of that Exalted Champion of Chaos. And what that's doing is that's stopping the champion from getting the charge and getting that double pile in, because with that D6 attack profile, it's a pretty safe bet to go into that combat knowing that there's a good chance you're not going to be taking a heap of damage without all those buffs, without the double pile in. He's unlikely to fight his way through those 3 flayers too quickly, and it means if any objectives do drop over there, there is a numerical advantage.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. So it looks so funny when you see that on the table, like 3 big flayers, 1 tiny exalted champion. Realistically, old mate should not survive that.
No, in theory, no.
We've seen some pretty funny things today, actually.
Indeed we have.
So he's also moved the other 3-man unit across as well?
Yep. So that's potentially... He may be trying to draw out that Knight unit or the unit of Chaos Warriors, whether that's for that unit of Flayers to fight or whether it's to bait them into threat range of the big unit. He's got those 9 Flayers just sitting there in the background with an incredible speed that he can strike out at things that Hayden might think is safe. So Hayden's got to be careful in this coming turn that he doesn't overextend. But Zenith is not mucking around. He's coming in and making sure that the pressure is on, and he's trying to force those mistakes from Hayden. He's making sure that Hayden has to make decisions. He can't be conservative, and he's basically trying to get him to make a decision that Zenith can then take advantage of.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Zenith has just moved to the shooting phase, so he hasn't moved a big unit of 9.
All right.
He's left it there.
Okay.
So they've done their scream. So basically how that works, if nobody knows, is they've got a 10-inch range, I believe. They scream at you, it goes on leadership. So when you're not in combat, you roll 2 dice per player. Whatever it is above your bravery, you're going to take 2 off, unfortunately, if you're more than 3 inches away. And if there's a difference between your opponent's bravery and that roll, that's mortal wounds. Once you're in combat, you don't actually have to take the 2 away, sorry. So they just basically, whatever they roll. And it looks like those guys have made it into combat as well. So the Exalted hero on the left-hand side and a unit of warriors on the right-hand side.
So what I imagine he's trying to do is clear off as many bodies as he can. In an objective game, bodies are everything, yep. And those combats are not generating any depravity for or against. So that's a pretty safe decision to try and get those warriors off and try and clear as much of the board as he can without giving Hayden those options to summon. Because once Hayden starts building a bit of a summoning pool, then he can snowball, he can bring on units of 20 demonettes, and he can really start stacking objectives and loading up models into one portion of the board. So I think Zenith's making a good call here. I think he was probably wise holding back with that big unit.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's got to now look at that middle objective and weigh up, okay, do I need to go in at some point and claim that and just hope for the best, because he can't hold back all game or he's just going to lose. They're just going to get away on the scoreboard with him. So he's got to be cautious, but at the same time he can't let Hayden dictate the flow of this game.
No, he definitely can't. But and 3 warriors have just died from that round of combat so far. And also the other thing is Hayden also knows that unit of 9 is still there, so they're a threat to him as well, which is a smart thing that Zenith has done. So hopefully it might force a few mistakes to happen, and we'll see how that gets played out in the next turn or so.
Yeah.
Just waiting to see how many warriors.
I don't know what that was. That might have been some. Well, I think a model got swapped from that left-hand unit of Chaos Warriors to the right-hand. It could have been a banner bearer or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But it looks like Hayden is going to move over, and his first activation is going to be that Exalted warrior, the Exalted champion, sorry. It looks like he's got 5 attacks, which is pretty good statistically, but it just depends whether he can follow through and capitalise.
So he's obviously got 2 wound rolls through, and then he's He just rolled his saves. It looks like he's taken some wounds on that unit. 2 wounds.
So he's put 2 wounds onto those flayers, and now Zenith is piling in back, and he's hopefully just going to put that guy down. He will give up 4 depravity if he does kill him. He's only a 5-wound hero, but at this stage of the game, he needs to start clearing bodies and taking as fewer losses as he can.
So Hayden's got 3 depravity points so far, so he's well on his way to journey of summoning whatever the hell he wants, whenever he wants, with Slaanesh. Not as bad as some of the other lists here, I will admit that, for sure. The other thing too is Feast Day, obviously, I don't think can be done by any of these 2 units because
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, definitely. So it'll be interesting to see after this turn. We're going into Hayden's turn 2 with Slaanesh, and it'll be interesting to see which direction he pushes in, because we still don't have that second lot of objectives on the board. He's holding the center, and now it's all about threat management. He has to decide how much he's going to commit, how far he has to steer clear of that Terrorgeist and that big unit. Because if I was Zenith, I'd be expecting to see Zenith waiting for that next batch of objectives, waiting to see where they drop, then making a massive push, summoning on units onto his objective, bringing on bodies everywhere he can to try and just get as many points on the board, while limiting how much depravity he's giving up. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes, where Hayden's turn kind of takes the flow of the battle.
That's pretty spot on there. Like, I'm pretty curious to see what he does, how many depravity points he gets, and where he decides to spend them. Exactly,
Definitely.
Like, I definitely back you up with that statement there, because you can daisy chain.
Yes.
That becomes really dangerous with Slaanesh.
Absolutely, especially in objective scenarios like this one. You can daisy chain those summons. You drop an Enrapturous that then summons another Enrapturous that then summons 20 Demonettes, and you can slingshot 20 bodies across the board in 2 seconds flat. So I don't know if that's something that Hayden likes to do a lot, but I think it's certainly a tool in his arsenal that he will use to lock down the win if it comes to it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, it's a reliable little shenanigans you can do. I've done it before with Nurgle, but obviously my contagion points are nothing like depravity points.
No. Nurgle's summoning is slightly more toned back.
Yeah, slightly. And I have done that in the past, so these guys are definitely going to have a bigger advantage of being able to do that. So with his Supreme Sybarites ability, he was able to get a command point from that, plus the turn command point, so he's gone up to 5 at the moment. So we've gone into Hayden's turn 2. So we're just going to see exactly what sort of spells he casts and where he goes on the table, where he's going to take out these Flesh Eater Courts Knights on the side of the table, and what he's going to do with this big unit. And I'm keen to see Archaon just do something.
Yeah, I'd love to see Archaon really stretch his legs. At the moment, he has to. I feel like there's a bit of pressure on Hayden to clear those smaller units of flayers, because he's got these little screen units and these little support heroes. He really does need to clear them off before they cause too much damage, because 3 flayers can put in work against a unit that size. So he's really got to watch that. He's got to do something about them before they start tearing through all of his bodies and he's left with just Archaon and a couple of heroes and the Knights. He does need those bodies, and he needs to conserve them as much as he can until he can get that depravity tick rolling over.
All right, so basically we have a bit of a CP spam happening here.
Okay.
So, Hayden has spent a CP to make Archaon run and charge, and he's also just spent another CP on the Knights to do the same thing.
Now, I'm just going to check something very quickly, because I have to check the wording of it, because I was under the impression that Archaon's command ability let other units use their command abilities for free. Am I right in saying that?
You are, but I'm not sure whether they've got FAQs somewhere.
So I'm not sure, so I'm looking at his command ability now. If Archaon is your general, Archaon's not the general.
Oh, yeah, Archaon's
That makes sense.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I had a bit of a moment then.
It's the last game of the day. We're all feeling
Yeah.
a bit tired.
And it has been a long day, but it's been a great day as well. Everyone seems to be enjoying
Fantastic.
themselves. The drinks are flowing. The drinks have stopped for some people, which is probably the correct decision in some parts.
So basically the sorcerer has failed his spell.
Okay.
So rerolling ones for everything has not gone off, but he has used his vision. And the knights are rerolling their ones to their saves.
No, that's quite all right. That is unfortunate. That demonic power cast on a 5, which is usually pretty easy to cast, but you know, things happen, you roll low. Oracular Visions is a nice little backup just in case it does go awry. You do have that. Essentially, it's an auto cast Mystic Shield. You're re-rolling once, you save. No one can interact with that. It's just a bonus that you get. I'm sure he would have loved to probably put that on a second unit, so get Demonic Power off on the Knights and Oracular Visions on Archaon, but as it stands, he's just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that is just how the game goes sometimes. It is a nice combination to have, like you said. He's also done an Arcane Bolt on the Flayers on the left-hand side, on that corner there where the Exalted Champion was. I'm pretty sure he did a wound over there as well. So they don't have any Deathless down there, so those guys are susceptible to being taken off the table because they're running on a 5-up save and no Deathless at the moment. So hopefully, what I think he's using for is just to create a bit of an annoying flanking shenanigans, and it looks like it's working at the moment because now Hayden is moving the Knights over to those players to get rid of them. The simple advantage of that is it will give the Hayden some only points because they multi-wound. So I don't think he's a real loss there by attacking those guys, and also clears them out of the way so those Knights, if they do get a double turn, probably shoot up, stop on an objective, or perhaps go into that unit of 9, which I'm a bit scared of if I was Hayden, to be honest, because they are buffed up at the moment.
Oh, that unit of 9, I mean, there are certain units in the game that are scary no matter what, and I don't think you can ignore any of those units. Both of these armies there's a degree of symmetry with these armies. They both have that one massive hammer piece, and they both have that one big unit. So you've got the Knights and the Flayers are kind of this reflection of each other. Then you have Archaon and the Terrorgeist that are also both very powerful single entities. So they're going to have to be careful about how this goes. One of them is going to make a mistake at some point, or the dice are just going to turn against them, and they're going to be in for a very, very rough ride.
Yeah, so Archaon looks like he's moving. Big man. Woo! Scary. This is what about turn 2 I start getting really excited.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just making weird noises.
No, that's fair. That's fair. He's making big plays now.
He's 3 inches away from those players, so I have every bit of confidence that he's going to be able to take those guys out.
I would hope so. I've seen Archaon do less, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, in the last game, the Rogue Idol and the Gash were basically slapping each other for 3 turns, and it wasn't until the Rogue Idol was double debuffed that he did anything. How does that work? No debuffs on him whatsoever. He did nothing. Double debuffing does stuff.
So it does look like he is breaking out of that bunker that he had at the back of the board. He is moving those warriors up to be within 6 inches of that central objective. He doesn't want to overcommit. He is staying on the far side of that objective to put as much distance between him and that big unit of Flayers as he possibly can, which is a good decision. He doesn't want to give those warriors away cheaply because he does need them on the table for these objectives. It does look like Archaon is making a beeline for one unit of Flayers. The 10 Knights are making a beeline for the other unit. So I dare say both of those units are not long for this world.
No, I would 100% agree. I don't know whether you've mentioned it before because I was sort of reading a little bit of the chat. But the Warriors there, I like the fact of where he's put it. Unfortunately, our drawing program hasn't fixed itself yet, so I can't draw on the screen at the moment, which makes me so sad.
I mean, we can draw on the screen, but it won't show up in the digital space. It'll just be Sharpie on your laptop.
Yeah, unfortunately. Everyone's just going to have to listen to us trying to describe it, just the worst. Or me, the worst, anyway. So I like the fact that with the the Warriors on that middle objective there that he's sort of half moved it on that side. So
Yep.
he's trying to keep, to me that looks like he's trying to keep distance from those players up in that top right corner, but he's also sort of creating a line to a certain degree to protect Archaon. So I'm not sure whether Gabe has already mentioned that.
I'm worried that he's made a bit of a mistake here. So if you look at that central objective, he's got his 5 Chaos Warriors on the left-hand side, putting as much distance between him and that unit of Flayers as possible. What he's done, though, is he's moved an Exalted Champion towards the Flayers, probably as a bit of a speed bump. But what that allows the Flayers to do, it gives them a much more achievable charge, and they can pile in around onto the objective if he's not careful. So depending on how Zenith plays this, Hayden might be losing that central objective sooner than he would like. We are about to see the second and third objective hit the table after this turn, so that will probably dictate a lot of where it goes. We also have a priority roll coming up, so nothing is for sure. If Hayden does win that priority roll, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he manages to get on all 3 objectives, depending on where they land.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. He's spread really thin now. Like there wasn't a lot to that distance time.
No, definitely
now
not.
Spread really thin.
And this is what he's got to be careful of, is overextending. If he goes too hard in one direction, like Archaon is kind of getting out on his own. There's not really any threats around him, but he's also all the way on that left-hand side of the field. He is dealing with a threat, but once that threat's dead, he's going to be a long way from the action if the dice go against him. So it looks like he's just piling in with those Knights. He's just making sure he's maximising his attacks to put those Flayers down. Make sure that they're not an issue later in the game.
I'm wondering why I'm laughing so much is that Ash McEwen, there must be a mirror match happening in the top left-hand corner of the field. And they're both playing Cinch. And so Ash McEwen's little change cast the spell portal and destroyed the opposition's Thought Summoner. So that in his turn, his little change cast the same spell through the spell portal and killed Ash's Thought Summoner.
Oh, that is excellent. That is fantastic.
Oh, that's
the
beautiful.
zinchiest thing ever.
That's just beautiful.
It's very fickle. So yeah, there is a lot of action happening at this tournament today. There's tons going on, a lot of different armies. But the one that we are focusing on at the moment is Hayden Walker with his Mortal Slaanesh army facing off against Zenith's Feast Day Flesh Eater Courts. And it is quickly escalating.
Escalating, actually. So, a bit of news from Lane, who was on the stream first up with his orange ones. Unfortunately, he's come up against a pretty heavy bloodthirster Corvus and conceded in round 3 because he had nothing.
Oh.
He was close to having nothing.
That is not ideal.
So, Iron Jaws just couldn't pull through.
Yeah, they're just too strong. It is interesting seeing Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters kind of starting to have their impact on the scene and starting to show up more at tournaments and put in some really good results. But there are still some bad matchups for those armies. It's not the miracle cure that probably Iron Jaws players were hoping for, but they've certainly got a lot more tools in the arsenal now. So
yeah, they do actually. I'm really keen to start playing them again. We've had Dennis play a few games with them, and Michael, they've got pretty excited.
yeah, I've got a funny story about Mix Iron Jaws, but I'll save that for another day.
Tomorrow. We'll save it for
Yep,
tomorrow.
yep, absolutely.
Rightio. So what have we got going on here?
So it looks like Archaon he's piling in at the moment. He's doing a ton of attacks into those Flayers. Hayden's going to want to get those Flayers off the table with a single activation. He does not want them harassing his heroes any more than they have to.
No, it doesn't. Hopefully he can do 3 Flayers there at the start, but one was wounded. So there was probably only about 9 to 10 wounds there, maybe less. So we're hoping that Archaon, I feel sorry for him because he's really for the inner worlds. He doesn't have the attack profile that I'm hoping. So unfortunately, he got Slayer of Kings off with a double 6, but because it's not against the hero.
Oh, that's disappointing. Oh. I mean, that's unfortunate for Hayden. That's one of the most satisfying abilities to trigger.
Generated an extra 9 depravity.
He's generated an extra 9 depravity. Jeez. So he's up to 13 now, I believe.
Oh, yeah, and he got an extra D3 on the charge.
Oh, and he got an extra D3 on the charge because he's in Godseekers. So he's, that depravity, we see it a lot with Slaanesh. That just starts snowballing now. We get to the point where heroes are getting to combat, heroes are starting to die, and they are really building up that summoning pool that we'll see have a big impact later in the game.
Yeah, it's hard to try and take out all the heroes. We really need to have some sort of shooting and stuff, but then they're still getting... If you kill them, they're still getting depravity points, but it's not quite as much, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22, Slaanesh, at the moment, but it's part of the game, and that's something that everyone has to kind of think about and how they're going to deal with it. And different armies can deal with it in different ways, some easier than others, but I think Zenith's approaching this. He's forcing Hayden to move to certain areas of the board, and he's making him move outside of this little bunker that he'd created. So
yeah, that's for sure. Like as we just mentioned, like Hayden's quite thin over the table now, so he's got a unit right over the right hand and right over the left hand side, and he's got warriors sort of everywhere. There's one sort of holding the middle, and then there's one trying to prevent summoning from the left hand side. So as I said, it's hard when you have such an elite army to try and block out the table. You really spare yourself thin. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins the next priority and how they're going to approach it, because Archaon is not exactly in a very good position at the moment.
No,
all the way in the left-hand side of the table.
Definitely not. He's it'll be interesting. Again, everything's going to come down to this objective drop at the start of turn 3 and that priority roll. I think that's going to have a huge impact. So you can see Hayden's rolling out the attacks for his Chaos Knights, which did come off they did charge, so their damage output is higher than it would be if they hadn't.
Yep, with the glaives.
And I'm fully expecting, if he can, unless something happens unstatistically, I'm expecting those flayers to have a real bad time.
I would hope so, because there's only 3 of them. And there's a lot more knights there, and their damage output is a lot better.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see how many.
So seeing he's rolling, I believe, 3 lots of saves. He's got his armor save and then 2 after saves.
Well, it just depends if he's got a hero down there to do the after save.
Oh, that is true. Sorry, I stand corrected. So one of them's definitely died so far, and it looks like there might be a wound counter there for another one. And it looks like Hayden's rolling out his next lot of attacks, which I imagine would be the hoofs. I'm sure Hayden would have loved for those lancers to do a little bit more work than just kill one, but we'll see. Who knows? There might still be a flayer standing at the end of this.
There might be, but I'm pretty sure in the Godseeker host too, any 6s to hit generate an extra wound roll or something like that too, don't they? Because I just saw him add another 3 dice back into that pool of dice he was rolling. So
I see. Okay.
So I think with the that sort of Slaanesh, they generate extra attacks on the 6s.
They do kick out a lot of attacks. Yes.
Yeah. So they.
So, yeah, Hayden does want to just clear them off. He wants to get them off the table as quick as he can. These little units, while they're not having a huge impact on killing things, he does need to get rid of them, because when he's holding models when he's holding objectives with single models like his heroes or Archaon, a unit of 3 flayers, even though they're nowhere near the power level of one of those heroes, they can cause absolute mayhem when it comes to objectives, because Zenith wouldn't even need to go into combat to claim that objective. So
But it still looks like one flayer survived.
it does. So, and what's the battle shock on flayers? Are they particularly brave?
They are very brave.
They are very brave.
They are very brave. They are
See, this is not good for Hayden. Locking that unit of knights in combat, they don't want to be off the charge, and they certainly don't want to be locked in combat. And so this might not be a great position for Hayden to be in. He might be able to kind of course correct with a double turn here, but he is going to have to wait and see. That one flayer surviving is not ideal.
It's painful. So now they're rolling to see where their own Star Strike lands.
Okay.
Lands. So,
Okay.
as you said, like having that player survive
Yeah.
means that he's going to have to make a choice of whether he's going to kill that guy or retreat. Like it's just a pain in the ass, really, depending on where they're.
Absolutely.
Oh, no.
So it looks like there might be Hayden's objective. Looks like it's dropping into the middle of his lines, which is not too bad. Like, worse things happen. He's already got models there. But he is going to... We're just about to find out where Zenith's objective is dropping as well. And that's really going to determine the course of this game. It looks like it's right on that hard flank. This is not good for... Oh, that's quite an isolated objective.
The one over there, yeah.
The one in the top right corner, he does have summoning. So this is where it's going to get tricky for Hayden, because if Archaon goes up there, sure, he's going to kill his way through almost everything, but they summon 2 units in and he can only hit 1. All of a sudden, he's spending 2 or 3 turns, 2 or 3 rounds of combat clearing that objective off. So this could spell a bad time for that objective, but Hayden is in a commanding position in the middle of the board. He is waiting for that big Flayer block to come in and that Terrorgeist to come in. And Zenith might not think this is the worst thing in the world. I'm sure he would have loved his objective to drop behind his lines, but now his 2 real hammer units have a focused point where they can push, and they know that if they push there, they are going to get results. So there's two objectives in the center of the board very close together. Zenith's probably cheering. He's probably going to start popping his summons now that the scenario has kind of shown its hand, and they can all start factoring in everything like that.
So I have a question for the chat. I was just asked what everyone's opinion is. So basically, if Archaon Slayer of Kings are King of Secrets because it is just slain instantly, what happens to the gravity points? Does it stop damage that has gone through and taken? It's just slain instantly. So that is, if there's anyone on the chat watching, please let us know what your opinion of that, because it's a hard one. Because I'd have to read the wording on it.
My instinct would tell me that if something is slain outright, you're not inflicting wounds, you're just removing it from the table. So I would probably argue that it does not generate any depravity.
Oh, sounds like Slayer of Kings is going off everywhere.
So we are seeing across the hall, we are seeing...
It's a Nurgle Slayer of Kings.
Yeah. So Marathi, as it turns out, Paulie Jackson is running a Nurgle list. He is facing a Daughters of Cain list, and you couldn't ignore this situation if you tried. It looks like Archaon just jammed the sword straight through Marathi's head, and she has been removed from the table. Gary is looking particularly dejected.
I think that's the second time that's happened to him today.
Is it really?
I'm pretty sure he played Sean. And he's Slayer of Kings Marathi.
Oh dear.
I think
that is not ideal. But yeah, Paulie is just spin kicking up and down the aisle. Sorry, we got a little bit distracted there. Sorry, everybody. That was quite the show.
Has destroyed an artifact to get rerolls to hit for the rest of the game. Pretty sure that is how that works. So the boo worm has been put on the table.
Ooh. I call it that too. Mostly because it has like 6, what's the word here? Bosoms, shall we say?
6 couple of boobs. So it's back to 5 CP as well. So I'll have to find and change that to 85. And I personally think that because it happens instantly, there's no damage dealt, and so does the chat, that you do not get depravity points.
I would agree with that. I think those instant kill abilities, it's pretty... I mean, to me, it's pretty cut and dry. That's what I think. So yeah, I would say slain instantly. That's probably the worst thing in the world for Slaanesh. They don't really want to kill stuff outright. They kind of want to have a bit of a brawl, spill some blood, get the pain going, and get those summoning points.
Yeah, definitely. But if you can deny them of their ridiculous amount of depravity points,
He has a lot of points, yes.
So we'll have to see.
He is quite the hefty fellow. So,
Because they must be messaging you.
I better check. So we do have we already have our first casualty of the event. One gentleman's.
Oh, he's asleep.
Yes.
Oh, so hang on a second. I'm going to see if I can get a photo of this. I can zoom in here.
So while this is going on, yes, there is a gentleman who has maybe had a little bit, partaken too much of the liquid courage, and he's having a little nap in the corner.
I have got that.
That is now immortalized and will be posted to the internet.
Yes, I will post that up.
So we're just getting another report from the table.
Oh, okay, so we've had a bit of a turn here.
Ooh.
You know how we were just explaining that one player is a bit of a pain in the ass for those knights. Well, they got Arcane bolted off the table, so now those knights are free to move. And it looks like
That is an excellent decision.
going towards the of 9.
Yeah, they are. And at some point in this game, one of the boys, either Hayden or Zenith, has to commit to a fight, has to commit to the charge. And it looks like Hayden, coming off the back of priority, is coming in hot.
Who? Blaze be mad. Blaze be bad? Who is Blaze be mad? And yes,
I'm
soft
not
pop,
entirely
yes, I
sure.
agree.
But he doesn't like Archaon, it would seem.
He's not spending
Oh,
his CP
hold on. Is he
Hayden.
talking about Archaon or is he talking about the gentleman who was...
I think he's talking about the gentleman who's asleep.
Right. To be fair, it was a horrific amount of alcohol.
Oh man, he's probably... Yeah, old mate, you're right. Blaze be mad. Just inform us who you are. You are where you're from. We probably know you, but we don't recognise the name, obviously.
If we don't know you, we can be friends.
Why not? So, back to the game. Yes, so he has freed up those guys. So he looked like he was trying to measure to find out where those knights can go, but it doesn't look like he's gone down that path yet.
Yeah, he might have pulled the pin on that idea. Realised that maybe the trade-off in that situation would not be ideal. It does look like he's pushing Archaon up. He is going to tag that objective and he is going to claim it. However, he is only one model, so when Zenith's turn comes around, all he has to do is summon any unit of more than one, and he has claimed that objective, possibly on a double turn. So this is the danger here. Hayden has to start looking at spending some of that depravity to bring bodies on to lock those objectives down, or he's going to find very quickly that the numbers game is swinging against him.
So, just to add something funny to this is Hayden has forgotten he had a palisade in the list, so he's just getting it out of his box to use on future turns.
I see. That is an easy thing to do.
That is.
That is a very easy thing to do.
Because he had an extra spell to cast as well, and he's like, I won't do anything, and then remembered he had the palisade. Oh, right, so Blaze Be Mad is in Victoria with the Borderline Gaming guys. Well, hello, it is nice to meet you. I don't think we've ever had you on the Twitch chat before. So, thank you for watching. It looks like the Knights are just coming across in the middle of the table there to try and hold that objective there. It's not using them to create some damage and run across and punch something yet. Which is interesting.
Definitely.
That 9-man unit up there.
I think he is, but I think he's also knowing that if that unit stays where it is, that Flayer unit stays where it is, it's not having a huge impact on the game. He knows that the Flesh Eaters have to come to him. He knows that he's got two objectives sitting pretty close together that he has to defend. And I think what he's doing now is he's looking at how he can best lock this area down and defend against that charge, because that charge is going to be coming in no matter what. It's just a matter of how quickly and how severe.
Yeah, but he's also claiming that objective. He's also making it hard for Zenny as well. So with Archaon going up to the top left-hand side there, I'm not sure whether he's made it within 6 inches, but he's definitely close to it. It's hard to tell, sorry. Having the centre one and then having the bottom one, which is a really good position, is sort of forcing Zenny now now like the tide has turned, and he's sort of forcing Zenny to make the decision himself of what he has to do. So before it was sort of like Zenny was sort of forcing Hayden to make choices he didn't want to make by splitting up across the table, but now it looks like Hayden has switched that over and is sort of forcing Zenny to possibly make mistakes that he doesn't, make choices that he doesn't want to make.
Absolutely. He's managed to swing this pretty convincing. I mean, the game is still in the middle, you know. We're not certainly not closing the book on it yet, but Zenith is in a position now where he has to start making big moves, because with where the objectives have dropped, he does need to push out very quickly with those flayers and the Terrorgeist if he wants to hold this down and keep the objectives. Because as it is, if he stands still and plays a bit cagey and doesn't overcommit, he's in danger of losing this game very quickly, because Hayden currently holds all 3 objectives. So he has pushed up that Exalted Champion a little bit further now, which is probably the right decision. He's denied him that pile-in that would have dragged him into range of the objective. He's left those warriors in the centre of the table. There's not really any reason to move them. They're doing their job. They're sitting in the right spot. And Archaon, of course, is up, parked on that objective in the upper left corner. So I think now Hayden's just making sure that he's got this side of the board locked down. He doesn't want to leave any openings for any nasty summons in a spot that he doesn't want. So you can see he's got that 9-inch measuring stick out. He's just making sure where the board edge, and it looks like he is bringing some models on. It looks like he's got some Demonettes. So like we said, he is cashing in now. He has to start spending depravity to get that numbers game up, and that's exactly what he's doing.
That is exactly what he's doing, which is a smart move. So I got some other table coverage as well, so from the fellas that are walking around. So basically we have one of the Alpha Omega team members, Sean Horton. So he's playing a Corn Archaon list, and he's tabled a guy from the Super Mat, Ryan Hooper, who's playing Slaanesh. So he tabled the Slaanesh by turn 3.
That is a big achievement, because Ryan Hooper has been cleaning up. So the fact that Sean's been able to whip out there, and Sean's got a similar list to Hayden, except that it's in Corn Allegiance. So he does have all these combos built around Archaon, built around running and charging, piling in. He's got some wicked combos in that army, and that's obviously caught Ryan Hooper by surprise, and he's paid the price for it.
He definitely has. And also there was a fellow from Toowoomba called Brady, and I think he was playing Josh Carroll from what I've been told, and he was playing Zench. So Brady was playing Bone Splitters and Josh was playing Zench, and Brady ended up scoring 5,080 kill points from him, because I think Josh was playing the multitudinous host.
He is playing the multitudinous host, and he is... Josh came into this weekend with 1 goal, and that was to win the most kill points lost. So where most people would go, oh, okay, I've lost 2,000 points, maybe some summoned units, he has gone all in. He is slinging endless spells through his own army. He is creating units that almost immediately die again, and he is just racking up that kill count. At this point, I don't think anyone could catch him if they wanted to. Even if he stopped playing, if he played no games tomorrow, I still don't think anyone would catch him.
No, I agree 100% there. So we were right. So up on that top right, left-hand corner of that objective there, he brought on 10 Demonettes. So Archaon has now got 10 Demonettes with him up the top left-hand corner. So the Exalted Champion has just made a 10-inch charge into a hero there, and he's got double pile and the extra attacks.
Okay.
We might see some exciting times.
So this is what Hayden was trying to do with these little guys, is they get that double pile in. If they kill something, they get a little bit of extra damage. But again, it's only a 5-wound hero, and it is a separate activation. It's not immediately.
Yeah. That's good. I'm just going to.
It is good. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that I think everyone can agree on is a good mechanic, as opposed to just immediately piling in.
Oh, yeah.
It gives you a chance to kind of counter punch and not just remove models off the table.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to see how it goes, because he's up against the Arch Regent. So the Arch Regent isn't terrible in combat either.
No, he is no slouch. So it'll be interesting. Now the tables have kind of turned. Hopefully, I don't think Zenith's going to have any troubles in killing this guy. There is a Terrorgeist there. That Flayer unit is no joke. There is a ton of attacks in there. It wouldn't surprise me if he pushes through, but again, this is one of those things where Hayden is basically forcing Zenith to feed him more depravity points. So
isn't that the name of the game?
That is the name of the game. Because everything that Hayden does is going to generate depravity as well. So he's playing a pretty smooth game, and we're seeing some CP being spent here.
We have. So Zenny has decided to spend 2 CPs. I'm pretty sure already had 2 CP. And he's doing it so the Archregent re-rolls hits at 1. And the second one was for the other unit there as well. Seeing some dice being rolled, maybe some wounds happening soon.
Absolutely. I think we're getting to the point of the game where Zenith has to start making some big plays. He has to really kick up a notch and start putting some of these Slaanesh units in the ground as quick as he can. He's got to bring on all these summons. We're in turn 3, and he has not summoned much at all, so he's got to think about that. He's coming up to the pointy end of the game where perhaps he's waited too long to make his move, but then I think he was waiting for that turn 3. It is a gamble going in too hot, and so now we're kind of approaching a point where it's make or break for Zenith if he can push back this Slaanesh army.
The Archregent is still alive. He only took five wounds from that round of combat so far. So that's good. So hopefully the Archregent can attack back at some stage and possibly kill that champion. So yeah, as we've already discussed, he's no slouch, and he's re-rolling ones to hit as well. So
absolutely, he is.
3's deck 1 for 1, re-rolling ones to hit.
For sure.
What are we measuring here? So we have to get some.
So we'll get a score update shortly. It does look like Hayden is in the lead at the moment. He has had the objectives for most of the game so far, but we are still in the early days. There is still opportunities for Zenith to claw it back. If he can really smash this out, he's going to be in a good position.
And he's on 17 depravity at the moment because he just keeps getting them.
Oh my word. So he's summoned some demonettes and he's already back up to 17. So he is not mucking around. He is enjoying himself greatly.
So Hayden would have got 2 points in the second turn because he
correct.
had that champion
Yep,
there.
that's
and
correct.
Now this is his 3rd turn.
So this combat is kicking off. He looks like Zenith's piling in, hopefully killing that champion before it gets to do its second attack.
I hope so.
I hope so indeed.
Yeah. Really, he hasn't summoned. So we've gone into Zenith's
So he's gone into Zenith's turn.
Yep, so we need to do some objective points here.
Yeah, so we'll get an update on what Hayden's score is in turn 3, because he did stack all 3 of those objectives, I'm pretty sure. We're just getting an update from the table now. So there is a bit of measuring going on. Those flayers, it looks like Zenith's at the point now where he is going to commit. He's got to dive in and really put the boot on, and he's got to do something here. He's got to take back control of this game, take back control of the flow of the battle, and not let Hayden run away with this.
Yeah, so he's scored all the objectives in his 3rd turn.
Yep. So Hayden has scored basically every turn that he can. He's scored everything, and Zenith has not. So Zenith's in a real tricky spot at the moment. He has to push, and he's got to have a big impact very quickly.
Yeah, so we're just updating those points for you now. And we've gone on to the Flesh Eater Court's turn. So he's cast a Spectral Host, I believe, on that unit of flayers. And now he's just deciding what else he's going to cast some magic on. So he still has a few spells to go. And Hayden would have got 9 points in that last round of his turn because he scored all 3 objectives on their turn 3s and the 3.
Very much so. So at this point in the battle, Zenith has to pull something pretty big out of the hat, and he's got to clear some of those objectives. At this rate, if Hayden gets another big turn of scoring and Zenith can't get on any of those objectives, it is probably lights out at this point. He's got to hold on, and he's got to make some big plays. Hayden still has a bit of a pull for summoning. Zenith has a ton of summoning still sitting in the pocket, which he needs to utilise at this point in the game. He may have left it too late to bring those units on. Perhaps he should have bought it in turn 2, but then hindsight's a wonderful thing. He would not have known where those objectives were coming on, and he could have very easily wasted those summons on the wrong side of the board.
Definitely. So usually everyone plays obviously armies differently, but when I usually play Feck, I get too scared that my stuff's going to die. So I usually summon my stuff in the first to second turn, no later than second turn really.
Absolutely.
Unless I can definitely tell that nothing's going to die, but then you still want to create threats, and that's
absolutely
really about trying to make my opponent think about what they're doing, trick them and bait them. So
definitely. And the problem with Feck is, like, in this situation, Zenith's bait is Flayers, which are not a cheap unit. It's not a unit you would typically use as a screen. They are 170 points for 3 of them. That is not a small amount. And so he's in a difficult position at the moment because he needs those bodies on the table, and he's potentially, like, he's got an Archregent who's taken a lot of damage. If somehow he ends up dead before he can pull his summons in, that's a huge hit for Zenith.
Alright, so the Terrorgeist has been buffed up, so he's going to be doing some work. So he's got 4 extra attacks at the moment, so he's obviously got the D3 spell from one of the Archregents on him as well. And there's a Black Hunger, and then he's also running and charging. So he's got some postcast on him because those Archregents are over there and they've got 2 spells each, so there's a lot of spell casting left in Zenny's army.
Yep.
So it sounds like he's going to buff up the Terrorgeist and hopefully get him out to do some work, but again, it's sort of like they're on the opposite sides of the table.
Yeah, definitely. I think
14 running can make it 20. Possible charge is still going to be charge, I think, even to those warriors there.
so. It looks like Zenith's finally making a big move. He is pushing into the middle of the table. It wouldn't surprise me if he slings into those warriors, kills them, and then uses the feast day for a free pile-in to try and tag the knights. But he also might want to leave the knights out of combat because a pile-in from the knights could bring them onto the objective, and that is not what Zenith wants at this point of the game.
No, but if Zenny can score the 3 objectives by turn 4 to 5, he can still win because it goes on the turn points, which sometimes a lot of people don't like about the scenario because you've held it for so long and then someone can just come take it off you and win the game. But it still has a lot to choose from. Like Chaos, nothing to sneeze at, really. The Terrorgeist is a potential threat there, but it's sort of coming towards the easier targets.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the table. So,
Yep.
we'll see what happens there. He's also moving the unit lineup, which is creating like a big threat in the centre of the table. But
Definitely.
I'm not sure whether that's 100% the correct thing to do, whether trying to create a threat over the other side.
Yep.
Because Archaon can easily come back.
Well, now that Archaon is summoned over that side of the board,
He doesn't need to be there.
he doesn't need to be there. I mean, there's always the risk that the counter summon, you'll have some ghouls show up, but he might have bought himself enough time now on these objectives that losing that one objective would not be the end of the world. So he's got to really look at keeping the pressure on Zenith now, and now the tables have turned, and he's forcing Zenith to make some big plays and potentially make some mistakes. So this is what we're about to see. We're about to see Zenith fully commit. He has to at this point. He doesn't really have a choice. It's more a method of how he goes about that. So his target priority is going to be what wins or loses this interaction at the moment.
Yeah, if he can hold these 2 objectives, then maybe he can get a big charge from Archaon into those knights and wipe them out, and then those 9 players can obviously wipe out the 5 warriors. Then he is scoring those 2 objectives, hopefully, just depending on where it is, because Terrorgeist still has a fairly big sized base, and he does have that terrain piece sitting there. so he's going to have to try and maneuver around that if possible. But if he can score those two, he's in a good position still.
Yep.
Because then, obviously, Hayden isn't holding those.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Hold them for a couple of turns, hopefully. And obviously, the Warriors are going to be a big threat. In my mind, if the Knights go and our Power's up the other side of the table, so he's going to spend a little bit to come back.
Absolutely. So this is make or break. It looks like he is starting to bring units onto the board with summoning. Am I right? And so this is going to be a big deal. He needs to. This turn is crucial for Zenith. If he chokes on this turn, it's going to be a big issue. But he looks like he is going all out. He wants to make an impact on this one and really tear it up. So he's kind of just contemplating his next move at the moment. He does have a lot of thinking to do. This is one of those moments where you almost need to take 30 seconds, step back from the table and kind of assess the board, work out where you're going to push, where you're going to pull back, where to focus all your energy and all your power.
Yeah, that's right. So I think it looks like he's trying to look at somebody down the bottom side of the table to threaten that objective.
So he's just getting some models out at the moment. Looks like he's summoning a bunch of ghouls.
Alright, so we've got 3 players on the top left side of the table and 20 ghouls on the top right. I'm not sure he's moving them. Yep, that's all good then.
Do you think that's the right decision? I mean, I guess he's kind of he's kind of hamstrung on where he can bring those models in now, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, I was a bit confused as to why he'd bring him into the top right-hand side of the table because they didn't threaten anything there. I'm glad he's obviously it was just a bad bum steer.
Absolutely.
There on the table and then moving them. So it looks like he's putting them threatening that bottom right-hand side, which is good.
And maybe he can run in and jump one of those characters. 20 ghouls can kick out a lot of attacks, so it's certainly not the end of the world.
No, definitely not. And then it's just something extra that Hayden has to think about.
Yeah.
And now he's got, in front of him, he's got a Terragrass and possible 9 players. And then on the right-hand side, he's got 20 ghouls.
Yeah, absolutely. Zenith does have to be careful here, though, because if he doesn't get the double turn, he's going to be caught copping a counter charge from Slaanesh with 0 CP in the bank, which is not where he wants to be. He does have pretty high bravery to begin with, but he does have to watch himself.
Yeah, that's right. And he's summoned another unit of players on the behind the original set.
Yes.
As well. So there's a unit of 6 there at the moment, so we'll have to see how they go. He's made a charge. It looks like he's got a fairly big charge.
That does look like a pretty safe charge, though. So I would imagine we're going to see him pour a lot of attacks into those Chaos Warriors, and then he's going to use that Feast Day command point to pile into the Knights and just cause as much damage as he can. It looks like he's already drawn them into combat, so they are piling in whether he likes it or not. So he might as well take full advantage of that and dish out as much carnage as he can to try and break that hammer unit.
Definitely. It just depends on how he piles into, because he can still pile in 3 inches, and he's only up against 1 warrior in the centre of the table, so he can still pivot around and get into combat and do 2 combats into those Knights as well if he needs to, depending on how he goes with the charge from these players. Like, they roll high enough and are able to get into those warriors, I'd almost try and do the double piling onto the Knights to try and eliminate those guys.
Absolutely.
So you've got no threat down there, basically.
Absolutely. At this point, he needs to be making decisive decisions. Decisive decisions? That sounds, I mean,
Precise.
Precise decisions. That's what I meant. I'm like, decisions are decisive by nature.
Yeah.
He does need to be pretty clinical at this point of the game in his measurements, in his decisions, because he does need to really capitalise on the position and try and shift some of this Slaanesh stuff off of those objectives, or at least outnumber them.
CP here, and he's just spent his turn CP rerolling hits at 1. So everybody, we're not really great at that. So we'll have to see what attacks he gets through, how much damage he does, whether he takes the unit off the table, double piles in, free, who knows. There's so many different options.
So many options. Yeah. So it is, it is interesting to see. This is the pointy end of the game. I think this is the turn where Zenith's either going to set himself up for a comeback, or things are going to go south for him very quickly. So we are hoping that he can hold on, that he can claw this back and bring it to a finish in turn 5. But Hayden has also put himself in a position to give him the best chance possible to win.
Those damn depravity points.
Oh, those depravity points. They are a ball buster. They are, yeah. Because when you're facing Slaanesh, you got to keep that in the back of your mind the whole game. Yes. You got to, this isn't Beasts of Chaos where things come on from the board edge on turn 1 in the ambush, and then you maybe have to worry about an Ungor every now and then. These are serious, heavy-hitting. I mean, Keepers of Secrets are one of the most lethal monsters in the game at the moment, and you can bring them onto the table pretty cheaply.
As soon as one dies, you have to get like 1 or 2 extra depravity, and then you bring one back.
Absolutely.
So, as to no surprise there, all the warriors have died. So, we're just seeing whether he's going. It looks like he's going to do his feast day and pile an attack again into the knights.
It looks like he is. He's going in.
Because, just by eye, I just missed the table. Just by eye, it looks like he possibly has some flayers in range of that centre objective, but he's got to be careful not to move too far away with the Terrorgeist either, because it could have been potentially holding that objective as well. If
absolutely.
He moves out of it, then
he'll be kicking himself.
Done himself over.
So it looks like he is going into these knights. He is going to want to put as much damage on them as he can.
He's going to be hoping for some 6s.
He's going to be fishing for those 6s, because those mortal wounds are going to put a lot of hurt on the knights. We're just getting an update now on those rolls.
Yeah, so he's just saying the second pile in is going in on those knights now. And we're just seeing if we can fish for some damage there. It looks like he had a little count there where he's counting up how much wounds.
That is terrifying.
Oh dear, sometimes the system is here.
Absolutely.
So
and while
remember too that this guy had 4 extra attacks.
He did have 4 extra attacks, which is no joke on Terrorgeist. They are scary on the best of days. These knights, they don't like mortal wounds, I can tell you that much.
No, they definitely don't.
So it just feels like Zenith is just pulling more dice out of his dice box, and he's just rolling, and I hate to think how much damage this is actually causing. We're getting an update now
at the moment,
as to
taken enough damage to kill 3 knights.
That is, look, that is not ideal. It looks like so he's killed 5 knights in total, which is a pretty hefty tally. Considering the first activation went into the warriors, I'm sure Zenith can't be too upset with that. I'm sure he would have wanted more, but
that's only 15 wounds.
That is only 15 wounds.
4 extra attacks.
Yeah, that's rough. I dare say there would have been a few of those 6s that were missed. He would have been fishing for them, would have loved to roll a few more 6s, and that would have been horrific amount of damage into those knights. But it looks like there's 5 there. Hayden has plenty of command points, so I dare say that Battleshock Immunity is high on his list of priorities. It does look like he'll lose that middle objective, but he's probably okay with that at this point. He just needs to lock down the other 2 and then counter-attack with whatever he can come up with.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of stuff being taken up with, I don't know how many depravity he's got left after bringing on 10 defense, but he would have got a fair bit from those knights there because they're 3 wounds each.
Absolutely.
Have to bring on probably another unit of 10 units somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. So, no, they look. So they're just having a quick discussion.
Looks like Hayden might be attacking back
with those knights.
With the knights,
yeah. So that counter punch is coming back in. I don't think it'll be enough to kill the Terrorgeist. Knights off the charge. Knights off the charge are not incredibly effective against something like a Terrorgeist. But who knows? He might put a couple of hits on him and do some damage. Maybe drop him down a bracket.
Yeah, so because I'm just such a spending.
Sorry?
For some reason I said he would get to gravity points from that, but I know better than that, so they aren't actually hearing what I was thinking. Joel is going to get none from that. So
absolutely.
I apologise for that, everybody.
Absolutely.
It's,
just spouting misinformation.
I don't have any excuse for that. Exactly, spouting misinformation.
And Joel's in the chat saying that Zenny is playing perfectly. You can go scoreless for the first 3 turns and then claw this back. And you are 100% right. He's certainly not out of this game, but he does need to. He needs to play a pretty precise game from this point forward to claim victory here.
Yeah, so whether or not he can actually pull that off. So they'll be going to a priority after this, I think.
Absolutely.
And if Zenny gets a double. So if Zenny wins priority here, then
I think if Zenith wins this priority, I think that Hayden's got a lot to worry about.
Ooh.
Because he has 2 objectives in the center of the board that are pretty exposed at the moment, to be honest. There's a couple of knights there holding up the Terrorgeist, but they're not going to hold him up for long. Hayden's going to want to get them out of combat as quick as he can, but not too far because he still wants to hold that objective. So he is in a real tricky spot now. So
and the Terrorgeist just took 4 wounds total from those knights. So
4 wounds total from the knights. I think that's a pretty acceptable loss for Zenith. I don't think he'll be too phased by that.
No, and it depends. Like if he wins priority next turn, they heal D3 anyway, so he could possibly, if he rolls the best, he could only just have 1 wound taken. So.
Absolutely. And he does have. So this next priority roll, I think, is going to be pretty important in regards to the flow of the game. Both players are looking to capitalise. Archaon is just ready to pounce on someone. He really does need to come back into the middle, though, and deal with some of these threats, because as it stands, if he doesn't commit more to the middle, he's going to be in a real strife in about a turn.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. So Zenny did score that middle objective as well, so that'll be...
So he'll get 4 points for that. Oh, no, sorry, we're still in turn 3. Sorry, that's my mistake. So he will get 3 points. So he's got points on the board, which is a big deal. He's still lagging behind. He's still 8 points behind. But we are coming now into a turn where 8 points is not that much. That's 2 objectives.
That's exactly right.
So, yeah, he's... Oh, man, this is back and forth, isn't it?
And he's doing the plus attacks on the Terrorgeist again. Or trying to. Attempting to.
Looks like some of the other games in this team matchup have already wrapped up. We'll try and chase up some of those results as well, because while Hayden and Zenith are duking it out, these are the 2 captains of these teams. They are throwing down. They do have 3 other people on each of their teams that have been battling it out the whole time. It looks like one of those games is over between Jess Thompson and Anthony Magro. We will see Brewer looks like he's wrapped up as well, but we'll send someone out to try and find out some of those results.
So Dan Brewer won his game. So basically what happened there is I think his opponent left one of the Gnaw holes exposed, and he got a warp Gnaw through there and just basically killed 12 long strikes in 1 turn.
That is not ideal. Skaven have got some moves.
They do have some moves. You've got to keep an eye on those sneaky little bugs.
Absolutely.
Have to see. Rolling some dice on the table is so he's just got spectral host off on the unit of 9, so they can run.
So has Zenith won this
He has one.
priority? All right.
So he's got 1 CP.
Okay.
Which I probably should.
So now Hayden has a lot to worry about.
He does.
This has been very back and forth. I keep thinking that like one person's got control and they're controlling the flow, and then priority or a dice roll or a lucky charge, and all of a sudden it's swinging back. So Hayden's now...
All right, so those players are running and charging, and they have, 4 inches extra movement as well. So
all right, so they have got some pace.
They have got some pace. So I'm wondering if you set that up for them, are they heading over towards Arcane? Why is he put that much extra movement on them? Because they already have a 12-inch with that extra spell of 4-inch extra movement. That's a 16-inch.
Yeah.
And then if they're running, he's really trying to secure something down. So that unit of 9 can punch out some serious damage.
Absolutely, it can.
I'm just wondering whether he just really wants to secure going over and taking on Archaon.
Yep.
Because that'll hold him up.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure whether he can get through 36 wounds.
That is a lot of damage to put out.
And if he's smart, he'll also have the courtier with them.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. So it looks like he's putting down some measuring gauges, so it looks like that is exactly what he's doing. This big block is going to be swinging over. It would not surprise me to see those flayers at the top of the board wrap around and try and clear off those demonettes and really lock down that objective. All they need to do is kill those demonettes, and Archaon is not going to do much against that many bodies when it comes to the objective. The Terrorgeist is probably pretty comfortable in smashing his way through basically anything that gets in his way at this point. I can't see those 5 knights putting up much of a fight. I can't see many of the heroes bringing down a Terrorgeist on their own, and there is an objective there that he will want to claim. So it's going to be interesting to see how this flows. If Zenith can put a big hit on Hayden, he might put him in a really bad position.
Yeah, that is for sure. So I really like a unit of 9 players, to be honest. If we're going to talk about that, I made a list for City GT with a unit of 9, and it was just amazing because either no one wanted to touch it because it was such a big unit and they think it's really scary, or they tried to and they either got wiped out because they got attacked by something that was just as good. But I found most of the time they just looked at that unit and just went, no, I'll just leave that over there.
Absolutely. And yeah, they are a scary unit. They're mobile, they put out a lot of attacks, and there are a lot of wounds there.
It was also a bad thing at the same time though, because I made the mistake of going, well, if people are scared of them that much, I put them on the objective, and I think it was the one that you couldn't move off of, so they were stuck there.
Yeah, absolutely. So he is doing exactly that. These flayers, he is sending both units around to deal with those demonettes that have been summoned around the far side of that terrain. They are parked directly on top of the objective, so all he really wants to do is go in, start punching on. Demonettes will melt under that kind of weight of attacks, and with Archaon locked in combat with that big unit, he should be able to hold that big guy in place and stop him from having too much of an impact in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just keeping him there, being able, because he's only one model, but being able to take the objective from those demons from the other players is a perfect way to try and take that objective, I think. Because you're holding him up, it's a lot for him to chew through.
Yep.
36 wounds.
Now you'll see what Zenith is doing at the moment. That unit of 20 ghouls that he summoned in earlier, they are now jumping on the surviving Chaos Warriors from that initial combat in very early in the game. And there is a lot of attacks coming out of those guys. They're probably going to wrap around those 2 warriors, lock them in place as well, and cause even more mayhem.
Yes, definitely. So we forgot to mention about those 20 ghouls, actually. They sort of summoned on and then they're in the corner, so we didn't really pay any attention to them. But having them come on and try and take those last remaining warriors off is pretty good, because I totally forgot they were even on the table, to be honest.
Tell you the truth, so did I. And those flayers, they were pretty low key, and all of a sudden they're having a big impact on the game as well. If they can kill their way through those 2 warriors, they're going to push up and support the Terrorgeist from the other side, stack bodies on that objective, and hopefully not take too much damage in return. There are still a couple of heroes around there that can charge in and cause a lot of damage to those kind of shitty troops that don't have a great save. but there are 20 of them. There is a hero nearby. They're not going anywhere in a hurry.
Definitely not. So all the players have managed to get their charges up. So there's going to be 2 units going into Archaon, which is interesting because I think the 9-man is going to be enough to surround his base. I'm not sure how he's going to manage to try and put 2 units there. And then the other unit has gone into the Demonettes.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's sending 2 units into Archaon. You do want to kill that guy, but at this point in the game, with the scoreboard where it is, you also really want to lock that objective down. Like, that's the priority, is getting points on the board. You can deal with Archaon later, but he needs to clear those Demonettes. They are public enemy number 1 at this point.
Yeah, I agree there. I probably would have sent the 2 units over to the Demonettes and the big unit into Archaon. I just don't, this is from experience for myself, just trying to fit those 9 units of 40 or 50 mil bases is a bit difficult, and it's easy to sort of make a mistake and close yourself out.
Definitely. So this will be a pretty decisive turn, as we were talking about before. This is make or break for Zenith. He's looking to make some pretty big plays, and he's put himself where we were looking at it a turn ago, where he had no points on the board. All of a sudden, he's putting himself in a really commanding position, and he is looking to make a big comeback. So
it looks like he's actually moved those players back towards the Demon.
It does. It looks like he has changed his mind. He has slung both those 3-man units that were summoned earlier in the game, and he's swinging both of them into the Demonettes. I think he's realised that he needs to clear that objective and kill everything in his way, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's playing a very smart game at the moment.
Yeah, very smart. So it looks like there's a hero still down next to the Knights there. So that's a bit of a nuisance in the sense that he can't exactly pile the Terragos around.
Yes.
And to get closer to the objective.
Absolutely.
It would be interesting to measure and see how far 6 inches is from the Terragos base to that objective, because it doesn't look that far, to be honest.
No, it doesn't. But he's got to be careful with that, where that Knight Combat and Terragos, where they're fighting. The Thane of Slaanesh, the terrain piece for Slaanesh, is actually in there as well. So to keep going on his rampage, he's actually got to swing around that Thane to keep the roll going. So that may actually bring him too far away from the objective.
Yeah, it could. It's also funny how he's charged those units of 9 in, but hasn't piled in and tried to get more into him. I'm just wondering why that is, because I would rather have a lot more attacks.
Absolutely. I would.
Why?
Yeah, is he activating them now? Is he?
He's activating
So
them.
if I were him, I would have been trying to pivot around the left side of Archaon, try and get as many bodies around that side as you can towards those Demonettes. The Demonettes are probably not going to be there for that long if all goes to plan for Zenith, but you do want as many bodies around that side as you can, and as many bodies in range of that objective as you can.
And
so
they
now
didn't do anything to Archaon.
They did no damage to Archaon. That's a bad time. I'm sure Zenith would have been hoping for a little bit more than that, but
So I think he's going to double pile in now because they did nothing. So again, I'm wondering why he hasn't piled in, because now with the second pile in,
Yes.
he's actually got more in.
because what is the reach on their weapons? Is it 2
1
inches?
inch.
It's
1
1 inch. Okay. So yeah, I
so
do
it's
wonder that.
interesting.
I wonder what the thought process is there. Whether he's just forgotten to do it. Sometimes in these situations, you can get carried away and you just miss the simplest of moves.
It can, but it also depends, like as Joel said, because I can't see where the courtier is, so he might have actually not been able to get the courtier in range for feast day.
That is very
unless
true.
They were in that sort of configuration.
That's very true.
Thanks for pointing that out, because I'm not exactly sure where the flare is. I think it's up the top there somewhere, and unfortunately it's only a 12 inch. It could be a 12 or 18, I think, from the generals, to be honest.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes, as we were just discussing before, with sort of closing yourself off or funneling yourself.
Absolutely.
And he just doesn't quite have as enough movement as those guys because they had all the scrolls on him.
Definitely. So we're just watching.
Looks like he's taking some wounds now.
It does. Yeah, it looks like he is pushing some damage through now. Zenith looks pretty happy with where he is at the moment on the table. There are still a couple of activations to go, but I think It looks like Hayden is activating those demonettes. He probably knows that they're on borrowed time, and he wants to get rid of them, or he wants to dish out as much damage as he can to try and mitigate the damage coming back. He does only have 10 bodies there, and they are pretty squishy. So he's wanting to... It looks like he's rolling 20 attacks into one of those units. He just wants to dish out as much pain as he can, reduce that damage coming back, because at this point, those demonettes, Hayden really wants to keep them alive to keep that objective in his hands.
Oh, yeah, he's sort of, I bet you he's over there sort of like gritting his teeth, just going,
Absolutely.
we're going to hold this,
Absolutely.
we're not going to hold it.
There'd be a bit of squeaky bum going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether he's going to hold it. I think the players are going to take it off him, to be honest.
Sorry?
I said I think the players are going to take it off.
Oh, look, I'll be impressed if these demonettes fight their way out of that situation. But stranger things have happened. You never know. We watched earlier in the day, Tyler McDonald, one of his bloodthirsters, had re-rollable 3-up hits, and he rolled nothing but 1s and 2s with 6 attacks. So, you know, these things do happen, and this is probably not a situation where Hayden wants that kind of thing to happen, or Zenith for that matter.
So, Archaon ended up taking 8 wounds from that second before the double.
Okay, 8 wounds on Archaon is pretty respectable. I'm sure Zenith would have still liked more, but considering the saves that Archaon has, it's not too shabby. And now he is locked in combat. He can retreat, but he's very limited in what he can do next turn. In Hayden's turn 4, he's going to either have to try and fight his way out through that huge pool of wounds, or he's going to have to retreat out and spend a whole round of the game sitting out of combat, not killing anything, which is not really where you want a 600-point unit.
No, definitely not. That's not optimal.
Not optimal at all.
So where are we going now?
So this combat is unfolding up in the top corner. The Demonettes are piling in. They have attacked. I believe Zenith's rolling his saves now on those flayers. And, oh no, sorry, I stand corrected. It looks like they're measuring... Looks like they're measuring for the Terrorgeist. So it'll be interesting to see if those Demonettes had any impact on the game at all. This Terrorgeist is taking advantage of the fact that he's not being hit back at this point. So he is just slamming in as hard as he can. I would be very surprised if these Knights are still standing by the end of it. He does have a second pile in sitting there in the pocket ready to go too. So
yeah, so the wounds that was taken up the top corner there is the Demonettes killed one player and did 3 wounds to another. So
oh, that is unfortunate.
There is 6 up there though.
Yes, there is. So they're down to 5 now.
Yeah.
And
five brutally wounded.
5 that have not attacked yet. So all they need to do is kill 6 Demonettes. Probably 7 Demonettes if we're counting Archaon in there as well.
Yeah,
and that objective is theirs pretty securely at the moment.
Well, yeah, I hope so. I'm just not sure whether the other unit of 3 is in range.
Oh, I see. We are seeing Knights getting taken off. We are seeing what looks like a second pile in. And he is just hammering home with this Terrorgeist.
So they, as you can obviously tell, those Knights have been taken off, and now he's going to do a second pile in. Because this one here will cost this command point, because the first one was free, obviously. And attack the heroes. So
which he's probably okay with. Heroes, he probably wants to get them off the table. It does feed depravity, but he has to go in, and he has to put Hayden on the back foot and force him to spend that depravity just to stay in the game. At the moment, he is losing bodies left, right, and center. It looks like if all things go Zenith's way, he's going to claim all 3 of these objectives. Unless something goes horribly wrong up in that top corner, Zenith's in a very commanding position.
He's in a very, very good position. So the tides have turned once again.
Once again? What a game.
Yeah, it's just like nail biting. Zenny had the power, then Hayden had the power. Now Zenny looks like he's got the power back again. Who knows what next turn's going to happen? Like, if he summons on some heroes and some other units, they could swap again. Like,
I mean, we've seen that Slaanesh daisy chain happen before. I know Hayden doesn't like to use it, but if it's between winning and losing a game, I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing the old slingshot.
Oh, for sure. So, see if Zenny's going to be doing some damage to these heroes.
Absolutely. I'd be sweating bullets if I was Hayden right now. Those heroes, they're going to be taking an absolute punishing at this point. That Terrorgeist is no joke.
No, I don't think I'd like to be hit by it. So the boo worm is surviving with 1 wound remaining.
1 wound. Oof.
So far. See if anything else happens there. But yeah, so far just that Slaanesh hero is surviving with 1 wound.
Yeah, these boys are actually pretty evenly matched players. Hayden's very animated at the moment.
Yeah,
He is
Exalted Champion was just removed.
okay.
That's both of them that have gone.
Yes. So did the boob worm go down as well? Is that
Lord
what?
of Chaos on foot.
The Lord of Chaos on foot. So that's his general.
Yeah.
So he's probably spewing about that. He had very little impact on the game, that general. So I'm sure.
To be honest, we didn't hear much about him.
Yeah, I don't think he had much impact at all. So I'm sure Hayden's spewing about that. That guy, the Lord of Chaos, did have the Thermal Rider cloak, so he had a huge amount of mobility, and he's just been caught in the wrong spot. And he was safe and sound behind the screen of Knights, but a Terrorgeist had other ideas.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's the thing. Like, surprises happen, and it's hard to read the game. But when situations like this, when things can double piling or they have the movement that you're not anticipating, you can be taken off guard. That is for sure. So it looks like the boo worm is still there though in combat with him, but I don't think it's going to be a threat in the next combat round because it's only got 1 winner, so he's going to have to try and either run away or be killed.
Absolutely. Got Dave Kerr hitting the microphone, belting out some tunes, keeping everyone entertained during this round 3 of the Rune Team Championship.
Yes, it has been bloody amazing.
It's been a great weekend so far. Been great.
So all that yelling before that we heard was Paulie Jackson going on about how his Slayer of King Marathi off the table. He still lost the game.
He still lost the game.
Yeah, so he was running around going, Marathi!
My word.
Slayer of Kings, woo!
He was
But,
spin kicking up and down the aisle,
he was
just
running around.
basking in the glory, and it's turned around and bitten him in the ass.
Yeah, that's what happens when you celebrate too early.
That's it.
Sorry. What are we rolling? Is that Hayden's attacking with something?
Yeah, definitely. I think
Uh,
perhaps this might be Archaon.
Warriors.
Is it the Warriors?
He's
Oh,
taking
into the
Warriors
ghouls,
off.
of course.
Yeah. He's just removed those knights that were killed before off the table.
Yep.
So
Yep.
clear some space.
So I am interested to see what those players can do when they go into the Demonettes. That's going to be a pretty decisive combat. That will pretty much decide that objective. And these ghouls as well, they may have a big impact on the game in the next turn.
Yep, definitely. So it'll be Hayden's turn up. And then he could double turn again. Possibly not, but yeah, he's got a lot of threats still, but he's also, I have to find out how many depravity points Hayden's got because he can still do some ridiculous stuff.
Absolutely. Because he is losing heroes left, right and centre now, but they are generating depravity, and he does have enough heroes still on the table that he might be able to summon.
Yeah, well, he's still got Archaon,
Yep.
and he has a lot of demonic mount.
So the Boob Worm's alive on 1 wound, I believe.
Yep.
And then he does have, is that Sorcerer Lord still alive?
Oh, it might be the Sorcerer Lord there.
Okay,
I know
understood.
that the 2 Exalteds are gone,
Yep.
and his General is gone.
All right, so it looks like Zenith's moving over to that combat with the Demonettes. He's looking to cause as much damage in this as he can because he needs those Demonettes dead, even if he just gets a turn of scoring on that objective, just to keep him in the game.
Yeah, so all those Demonettes have died, and he's piled into play.
Oh, lordy.
You can make a pile-in move because you're charged.
Oh, of course
So,
you can.
Those guys have...
Of course you can. Wowee, okay. So Zenith has really put his stamp on this in turn 4. He has asserted a great deal of control over this table. And he has put Hayden on the back foot. Hayden needs to... I mean, this is swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Now Hayden's got to play a really clinical game at the risk of finding himself in a very, very bad situation.
These are where mistakes just punish you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in a game like this, it's whoever makes the least mistakes comes away the winner.
Yep. There is Basically, I don't think that Terrorgeist down there is going to take that objective though, because it looks like there's still 2 heroes near that objective. And
Yes.
only one model, so
Yes, that is
he won't
true.
get that, but Zeddy will still get 2.
Yeah.
Because it's turn 4, he'll get 8 points. He'll still be.
This is a big deal. This is a big turn for him. I'm sure he would have loved that extra one. He's probably spewing that guy's still alive on 1 wound. But he's locked down 2 objectives, which is a big deal. He needed that to stay in this game.
But there's still like summoning power, so with Arcane alive, with those the Boomworm and the other hero too, like depending on what's in the middle, if Zeddy has that character there, it's going to be hard because they have to be 9 inches away. So if he has got something there, which I believe he does, it's good because it blocks out the Slaanesh summoning.
Absolutely.
So, otherwise he probably could have brought something on around the middle of the table. But now he's going to have to try and do that and make the charge. And we all know how reliable 9-inch charges are.
Absolutely. Looks like some flayers have been killed by Archaon. Yeah, you would hope so at this point. He's spent a lot of time not killing stuff, so he's probably finally stoked that he can sink his claws into something.
Okay, so we've just been told that the unit of 9 players are probably going to die. We'll have to see. So, yeah, they're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. So there's 4 just died already. 4 players have died already in that unit of 9.
That is not what Zenith wants at this point.
The models from the back, so I'm not sure where they're going to get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether that was the right decision. He maybe should have pulled them from the front row, left Archaon in combat, but left the flayers in range of at least a deathless. They would have been outside of inspiring presence, but their bravery is pretty high already, so they might have gotten away with it.
It just depends on what that range is from that 40 air hero. So he might already have been. This is 18 inch for the feast day, I'm pretty sure, and the deathless is only 12, so he could have possibly been out from the beginning. So it's just unfortunate that he's losing so many players in this round of combat. Just taken another couple off, so it looks like he's only got 4 left. So out of the 9, he's lost 5 in total so far. Still got some more attacks happening. 34 minutes to go. 4 wounds going through. 4. Oh. I didn't kill another one from that though.
All right, so he's still got 4 flayers left. He might be losing a couple from Battle Shock, but he might get lucky as well here. If he rolls low, holds Archaon in combat, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, so they're bravery 9, so if he's lost 5, they're only going to fail on a 6, I believe.
Yep. And he's also in a good position, Zenith, because Archaon pretty much has no choice but to go for that middle objective, because he's unlikely to chew through 2 separate units on that top corner, that top left corner, whereas in the centre he's got 1 courtier to kill, and that objective is his. So it does bring him a lot closer to the Terrorgeist, which he probably doesn't want to fight, but he does need to do what he has to do to stay in this game, and at this point it's all about points on the board. You can survive taking a few losses here and there, but he needs to be playing pretty clinical. You can see both the boys are thinking pretty hard about this game. They're both playing their asses off here.
Yeah, definitely. So Archaon, I think, attacked with the Nurgle head as well, so I think he healed some of those wounds. I just saw Hayden before flicking the dice back, so I'm presuming he used, I think, the Nurgle head or whichever one heals him.
Oh, I thought you meant flicking I thought you meant throwing dice, flicking them?
No.
Yeah,
He
okay.
was
Right.
the dice back over,
Oh, I
he's
see,
taken 8
right.
wounds, but I'm pretty sure one of the heads heals.
Okay,
if they kill
gotcha.
something.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm pretty sure he's healed up some of those.
Roger.
straight wounds. Alright, so we got another CP for Hayden, so
Spending another one.
he must have spent some, so he's apparently just on 4. so we must have missed somewhere along the line.
So he's still got a ton of CP.
Yeah, that's more than enough.
Which is unusual because this army is not particularly CP hungry, is it? Like it's
not at the moment now, but that the knights are dead, and
yeah,
the Lord on Demonic Mount on the steed. I don't know whether he's around because you can sort of spam his stuff.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, I'm not sure what he's really got going on because his general's dead. The Sorcerer Lord's got nothing going on.
Yep.
So not really a lot.
No, it's a pretty depleted board at this point. There's been a lot of carnage.
There has been a lot of carnage, actually.
As much as I was talking about him leaving it too late, I think Zenith brought his summons on at probably the critical moment. He didn't leave them exposed too long that they could get damaged, but he brought them on early enough in the game that they could still have an impact. You're seeing that now. Those ghouls are sweeping across. You've seen those flayers clear off the demonettes and claim that objective, and it's been a big deal.
It has been a big deal. Like, we did disappoint with the bloodbath that we promised. Upgrade that, so we had 2.
So he scored another 8 points. And so the score is updated now. If you're looking at it, you can see Zenith only has 1 more turn to score, Hayden has 2, and I think that is going to be the make or break. If Hayden can get a double turn here and claim enough objectives to push himself in front, he's going to be in a good position. But at the same time, if Zenith gets in first, puts those points on the board, and keeps this rampage going that he's been killing through everything with, like that Terrorgeist has killed something every activation. He's just smashing his way through knights, smashing his way through warriors, heroes, everything he can get his hands on. He's just clearing that center of the board.
Yeah, well, that's Terrorgeist are pretty reliable at doing that. I have to say I've thrown him into a few things where I've been confident. So Hayden's pretty much gone through his hero phase very quickly. He's gone into his movement phase, and it looks like he's retreating those heroes down the bottom of the table there, out of 3 inches of the Terrorgeist, but still holding those objectives.
And I think that's the right decision. He doesn't want to be in combat with that thing if he doesn't have to be.
He does want to be in combat with that. But there's not many units that can just buff off.
Not at all. They are devastating. So at the moment, Hayden's just conserving the bodies that he does have. He's going to be looking for a couple of summons here as well, I'm sure of it. He's getting to the point where turn 4 he wants to cash in all of his depravity so that in turn 5 he's got those units to sling around the board, get onto the objective he needs them on, and really try and close this game out if you can.
53 depravity at the moment. So
we're up to 53 depravity, so we're looking at potentially a keeper. We're looking at potentially some more demonettes.
New army material.
New army material, yeah, you got that right. That is 100% for sure. Our tableside reporter Ham, he is having a good old laugh about that.
Yeah.
50 depravity is no joke. It builds up so quickly. It just spirals. And this is what we were talking about earlier. It's this late game where that depravity really has an impact.
All right, so he has spent ACB at the moment. He's just made an Exalted Hero run 6 inches.
So he'll be going for that.
That's I'm putting a 6 in there because I'm set 6 inches.
Yeah.
It goes down to 3.
So he'll be looking for that run and charge.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. No, this is with the Warriors, is it?
Oh, the Warriors. He's a hero. So
yeah, I thought so too. So he's obviously running them 6 inches. He's spending the command points as quick as he can at this point. We're in bottom of turn 4, so he's got pretty limited opportunities of spending them. The boys are just measuring out at the moment if a 6-inch run is actually going to get those Warriors into range of that objective. It does look tight, but they're going to have to be pretty precise, and they're going to have to get at least 2 bodies into range to outnumber that courtier.
That is correct. To be honest, the courtier is not terrible in combat either.
No, definitely not. But the problem that he faces now is he doesn't have to fight him. If he can get 2 Warriors in range, that Terrorgeist look like it's out of range of that middle objective. And so those Warriors, it looks like he does have 2 bodies there, and that is going to be enough to claim that objective. The rest are going to shuffle up behind. So that was a big 10-inch move. pushing those warriors up. He's very fortunate that they were in range.
The little fiver is
That's it. Those units, it's those little units in games that you got to clear off. You can't leave them alone to their own devices, because that's where you get real dramas at this point in the game, where you don't necessarily have the power to react as quickly as you would like.
Oh, no, that's for sure. And that's why depravity points are so strong, because, you know, the mistakes can be made, but they can be fixed as well, depending on what's left on the table of your opponents. But being able just to bring new units on fixes up a lot of the mistakes that you could possibly make. A new army coming on the board, yes.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
So he's going to be 9 inches away from everything, and it looks like he's bringing on the big girl. Deal with the Terragos.
That is probably I believe that's the right decision. Yep. That's probably the best answer he has for a Terragos at this point.
It's Camel Toe, her name is.
Okay, that is quite something. Yep, alrighty.
So, I think that's the right decision as well, for her to come on the table and try and punch that Terragos straight off the table. But So, and he's got enough CP there to be able to re-roll that charge as well.
Absolutely, he does.
So
and
that's depressing.
Yeah, there's that double piling just sitting there, ready to have CP spent on it.
Oh,
it's going to be a rough ride. He's got to be really careful.
Are we seeing the ship rocked again?
Oh, at this point, I'm a bit motion sickness. I got a bit of motion sickness from the back and forth here, because it is all over the place. 20 Demonettes are coming on too, so he is
sort of sinking.
He is emptying the bank here. It's certainly, he's stacking the tide in his favour, yeah. And he's doing the right thing bringing him on in this turn, because if he wins priority, that Keeper and those Demonettes are going to be completely free of restrictions, and they are fast enough that they can hit where they want. 20 Demonettes will probably clear off that objective of those damaged Flayers.
Yes.
Archaon will potentially finish off those Slayers he's fighting. Flayers, sorry, not Slayers. Same. They slay things, I guess.
And also, you've got to remember as well that Keeper of Secrets has got the Locust, so on a 2+, that Terragos is going to be fighting last.
Absolutely. We were talking about this earlier. That was one thing that I think he was missing out on, and now he's brought that to the table with Depravity. So he's definitely made the right decision with a Keeper. I think she's going to have a big impact on the game.
So he's hoping the 20 Demonettes he's putting down now that have been summoned from Arcane will cap that objective. So
that is very true, yeah.
He's starting to possibly chew through. It depends on how he rolls here. So if he misses a 9-inch charge with those guys, he might have to re-roll it.
Yeah.
Then it also is the same thing for the Keeper of Secrets on the middle of the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be 2 command points gone if they fail their 9-inch charges.
Definitely.
So then they'll leave him with 1.
Which I think he's got enough time now that he can spend CP pretty recklessly. He's at the point now in the game where you need big plays. You need to close this out. You need to, put the pressure on and not take it off. And I believe that spending CPs is probably the place to do that. When he's got 3 sitting there, they're not worth anything in the end of the game. So he might as well spend them.
Oh, exactly. So if they do get spent and then they do actually give him the 9-inch charge, bam, done.
Absolutely.
Objective secured.
Objective secured indeed. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds. They are running pretty good on time. We've got probably...
They got about 20 minutes, 22
They got about 20 minutes left in the round. They do, so they're going to have to play pretty quickly, but I think depending on how this next turn goes, the decision might go one way or the other very quickly. So we're getting some news from the table.
So he's having some technical difficulties with the microphone that sort of fell off.
So we're just getting an update now.
Yep. Alrighty. So the Keeper of Secrets just made it the 12-inch charge.
The Keeper of...
Yeah.
Oh, geez. 12-inch charge is a bad time.
So, and then the Demonettes in the top corner made a 10-inch charge. So is that both charges without spending a CP? Or did he have to spend a CP for the keeper? Just the keeper. So he managed to only spend one CP to do all of that. That is ridiculous. So Hayden only had to spend one CP. Oh, he's 2? Oh, okay. So he's actually used all of them.
So he has spent all his CP.
Yep, so he spent 2 for running and then he had to re-roll both of those charges.
Oh, true. But
votes.
has he made both those charges?
Yep.
Wow, okay.
So the keeper re-rolled into a 12-inch charge, and then the demoness, the end of the 20, re-rolled into a 10-inch charge.
Wow, okay. So like we were talking about, spending CP pretty recklessly at this point, he's done what he has to, and he's gotten lucky with those charges. Those 2 combats are going to be a big deal.
Honestly, if that Keeper of Secrets kills that Terrorgeist and those 20 demons to secure that objective, I'm not sure whether there's going to be a turn 5.
Oh, look, I think at this point, he's got to roll those 2 combats out, but it's looking pretty healthy for Hayden. He's managed to claw this back. Depravity has absolutely saved him here. He was in a position for a while there where the Flesh Eater Courts had an immense amount of pressure on him. But he is really dragging this back. He got very lucky with those charges, spent CP when he was meant to, and he's lucky that he had that big pool of it to spend at the end.
So the Terrorgeist is fighting last, so the Keeper of Secrets did the locust. Got 2.
All right, so that 2-up's gone off. The Keeper's probably going to leave that combat to the last then and focus on other ones.
The Demonettes are going to attack now.
So Demonette's going in first. This is probably, that's 100% the right decision as well.
Sure.
I don't think Archaon's worried about dying. Those Demonettes need to clear that objective, and that might be a pretty decisive blow against the Flesh Eater Courts.
Oh yeah, so Joel was just saying that the Keeper's not going to be able to double pile it because he's spent all his CP, so if that's a CP...
Of course, yes. So he's got one shot at this.
Yes, he's got one shot at this, and if Hayden wins priority, he thinks he'll win this one, and I'm going to lean towards agreeing with that just because 20 Demonettes is pretty good.
Yep.
The fires aren't exactly great at taking damage.
Absolutely.
Even though they've got a few wounds, and the Keeper of Secrets with the 2-up making the Terrorgeist fight last is...
Definitely.
It's terrible.
So he's rolling out these Demonette attacks now.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens here. He's only going to kill 5. Well, not even that. He doesn't really have to kill any because he's obviously just secured that objective. 20 of them on there. With that unit of 20 Demonettes, when they roll 6s to hit, it explodes into 2 hits because it's a unit of 20 or more. So then he rolls 6 sixes or 8 sixes?
Oh, man.
He's
just pouring attacks into these guys.
That's an extra 24 attacks or something.
That is absolutely punishing.
It's 24 including. Yeah, it's including what they...
So Hayden's put himself in a very, very commanding spot now. This has been the most back and forth game I've watched in a while.
Yeah.
Both of these boys, you know that both of them are skilled players, just in how they're reacting, their timing throughout the game of when to commit, when to hold back, when to use their summons, and turn 4 turns out to be the correct turn to spend 50 depravity.
So, Spongy Paints, James. We're getting some sign language.
Sorry, I don't believe that's Auslan sign language. There's some gestures I've not seen in a while.
I don't think that's the most appropriate sign language. We won't talk about that on air. But moving on. So we are now looking. Hayden looks like he's attacking with something. Back to the chat. So James Lynch has joined us.
Oh, hello, James. I was chatting to James earlier today.
Yeah?
Yeah, he dropped past and said hi and was having a bit of a look around.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't seen or looked picked up on Facebook or Twitter, Spongy Paint. He paints like an absolute maniac.
His Slaanesh recently won gold for Armies on Parade, and well deserved. It is immaculate.
It's amazing. And he
Very,
does,
very good.
He also on Twitter, I believe, he has little tutorials every now and then about airbrushing stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
Jump
He's
on there and see what you can find on there, because his stuff looks incredible. Yes, it is been a close. It has been a close one. It's sort of as
it's been
explained. It's been sort of like we're getting. Gabe said he's getting seasick just from the backwards and forwards from the game here. So hopefully we can get an update. It looks like the Terrorgeist has taken some wounds. He's taken 13 wounds from the keeper. He's got one left. So that Terrorgeist is not having a good time. That Terrorgeist is not having a good time on the table. Yeah, so whether or not he was wounded beforehand, it doesn't matter. He's actually taken a total of 13. Oh,
Hold on, what just happened?
the keeper just died, which is...
That keeper's just been taken off the table.
Happiness a little bit.
I hate flesh eater courts as much as the next person, but there's a little bit of joy watching a keeper eat absolute shit. I think at the moment Slaanesh is probably less popular with the general community. Look, I was trying not to upset anyone, but basically everyone hates Slaanesh. I am stunned. That is okay.
I don't think that's like a winner-winner.
I don't think it's a winner, but that's a big blow for Hayden, because that basically stopped him
It's okay, he can just summon it back
closing out. Hey?
He can just summon it back on next
I mean, he can. Look, this is true. There are mechanics that support that style of thing, such as depravity. But yeah, that could have gone south very quickly. So Xanath got pretty lucky there and just punished that keeper into the ground.
So Hayden just scored 10, and now Fek has won the turn roll.
Who's won the turn roll? Hayden. Oh, Flesh Eater Courts. Ooh, okay. We've got a real fight on our hands now then.
We do. But he's got a bit of a... He's got to do something.
Won't it only be 8? Sorry? Because it's turn 4 still.
Yeah, turn 4 still. So yeah.
Yep.
I think I just got to...
That's all right. We'll just adjust that turn 4 score.
Easy.
All right.
Is telling me wrong.
My word, this is getting close. This is crazy. Oh, man. All right, so what's going on?
I don't think he's got that one down the bottom there. I was just seeing whether he actually scored that one or not. There's nothing there. I thought he might have moved the hero out.
So we are moving into turn 5 now. Looks like Xanath does have priority, and he is going to take full advantage of it while he has the opportunity. At this point in the game, he doesn't really care about killing anything. He just wants to have numbers in the right place. I wouldn't be surprised to see... Oh, man. This is going to be tense. So, those Crypt Ghouls are probably well within range to push up to the Terrorgeist and hold that objective with an absolute ton of bodies.
Yeah, so he's got Mystic Shield on the Terrorgeist and movement on the flares on the left. He's going to try and take the bottom objective and secure it. I'm not sure. It seems, to be honest, I don't know whether I should say this, but I've sort of picked up that he hasn't used his Dead Watch Battalion ability
Oh, no.
at all. So
Oh,
I haven't
no,
seen
he's
any
forgotten.
Of the players attacking in the hero phase. So they could have
Oh,
literally just
no.
attacked a Kaon
Oh, that is devastating.
or
He's going to
piled
be...
into those demonettes and then
Oh,
then-
no. He's going to be devastated.
Yeah, so
That's a big deal.
I've done that before, but I'm pretty sure he has just forgotten to do that. just planning some extra stuff.
They're just going through. I think they're just rolling out a couple of combats at this point. We are in the dying moments of this game.
Oh, they're doing the screaming.
Oh, this is the screams.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. So everyone that can scream is screaming, just trying to take off as many wounds as you can. Everything counts at this point of the game. Every wound that you can do is a big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
So he is swinging that Terrorgeist around. He is going to be doing some more damage, just taking those heroes off one by one. He is going to be feeding him a little bit more depravity, and it looks like his courtier is potentially going in as well.
Yeah, so he's trying to just hang on to those objectives as long as he can, score some points. Because they will be worth 5 each this turn, because this is the last turn. So they've only got 10 minutes to go. So hopefully they can fit their turns in here, otherwise they're just going to revert back to their old turn. At this point, Aiden's in front by 8.
He is in front by 8, which is a devastating margin, but it's not unreachable.
It's definitely not unreachable, and the ways that he's sort of moved around the table here, it looks like he could possibly try and grab 2 objectives, so he'll get 10 points for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it'll be all about denial, but it's really a matter of whether those first few turns of scoring big will make the difference for Hayden or not. It's going to be an interesting game, seeing how this all unfolds.
Yep, so we're just swapping table bosses. I'd like to thank Han for coming in today and
Absolutely.
jumping on the stream.
He's done an excellent job.
Yeah, with us and then also being table boss, he's done an excellent job. He's also helped us sort of get our sound problems. He's also a really good painter as well. He's part of the Simple Math group. So if you guys, they're doing like a painting and hobby day next week. So jump on Facebook, find them on there. If you're around Brisbane area,
Absolutely.
get amongst them.
Absolutely.
It looks like those guys are just contemplating where stuff is on the table. And looks like some warriors have taken a lot of warriors off. It only looks like there's one left. So that's pretty awesome in the center objective. And yeah. Oh, hang on a second. Okay.
Alrighty, so the boys are just at the moment. It's getting pretty scrappy. They're just chasing those last couple of points. Hayden's desperately trying to hold Zenny off, making sure that he doesn't catch a lead and snatch victory from Hayden. But the Slaanesh, that unit of 20 Demonettes, that's a big deal coming on.
Yeah. So we're just going to get some information from the table and see what's going on there. What with the center objective there? Is there a warrior still within 6? Or is that contested? So Hayden's still holding the center objective.
We're getting some reports back from other games. Gammy managed to land a big win, 37-4, which is a great improvement on his performance last year. No, I kid. But it is.
But seriously though, it is.
For those of you who can't see what is happening in this room, Gammy is giving me horrible looks. It's almost like I've deeply offended him in some way.
Somehow. Might pay for that later.
I will probably pay for that later, yes.
So it looks like some players have been removed from around Archaon. It looks like Archaon may have killed just a few there.
Yeah,
Looks
absolutely.
like probably 3.
Absolutely. That's a big deal.
It is is a big
Oh
deal.
man, there's not many models left on the board. They are really struggling to keep numbers up. Both sides, like this isn't even one side steamrolling the other. It has been a bloody fight from start to finish. And it has been back and forth, back and forth.
Even with the amount of depravity points and things being summoned, like the Feck player has done well.
Oh, I think
hanging on there and
I think if Hayden didn't have those depravity points, I think Zenith would have been in a much more commanding position than he is now. Because he dominated the board from turn 3 to 4.
Yes.
Absolutely dominated it.
Oh, 100%, yeah. It's just the mechanics of the army. Like, there's all the new stuff coming in now is getting some sort of summoning or...
Absolutely. Definitely. So we are coming into the last 5 minutes of the round. The boys are just closing this out. It looks like it's going to come down to the wire, but I think they're going to be. I think it'll come to a decision pretty easily. It looks like there's a handshake there. Looks like they've shaken hands. I think Zenith has conceded, and it looks like Hayden has claimed the big win.
He has claimed.
What an absolute game! That was unbelievable.
Just so, like,
that was probably one of the most evenly matched games throughout, where both players knew what they were doing. Both armies were incredibly powerful, but evenly matched. And yeah, I'm stoked. That was incredible.
That was incredible, actually. So I will flick back to the selfie cam for us just to chat and probably do whatever we need to do, plug some stuff, and then I will get the guys up and they can interview.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to step out. I've got some TO duties to attend to.
Okay.
But I appreciate everyone having me on. Thank you, Gemma, for letting me co-host.
No, thank you.
And yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Catch you later. All right, guys. So I'll just get the selfie overlay up so you can actually stare at my face for the next 5 minutes. I have this little mascot here, Scabbers. So he's from Dan Brewer, who was down there playing before. So he has won his game, actually, Dan Brewer, which I've already talked about before. So unfortunately, the guy didn't block out his little gnaw holes, and a corruptor come through. Some damage, took about 12 long strikes. Alrighty, so we have got Hayden. Welcome to the stream.
Yeah, mushy mushy.
So tell us about the game. How did you find it? It was pretty darn close.
Oh mate, that was definitely a rough ride.
I was just like seasick from it, rocking backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
What was happening?
Oh, mate, look, when we did all our matchups, I thought that it would have been more of a green matchup, so a better matchup for me.
Yep.
Because it's full of depravity. He doesn't really have any screens, but I underestimated the Dead Watch. And I completely forgot that he forgot that to use it, and I forgot to use the Eye of Shireen on Archaon. So we were forgetting our stuff for the entire game, which is great.
I did pick up that he wasn't using his Dead Watch.
Yeah.
I can't say anything obviously because I'm just on the stream, but I did pick up on that because it helped him in those last couple of turns. But unfortunately, it's hard for me to pick up the Eye of...
Yeah, so the Eye of Shireen is re-roll a number, roll a d6, and then they have to re-roll that number. So especially if I roll a 6 for it, they're not doing any mortal wounds to him.
That's right. So that's definitely important. But hopefully in the next games tomorrow, that'll be something that you remember.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to. Yeah, I'll definitely be writing up another cheat sheet tonight, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So how are you? How are you going with the Slaanesh that you're running? Are you really enjoying it? Is there some tweaks that you want to make? Or?
The old Slaanesh Lite is doing really, really well for what it is.
Yeah.
It's not one of those crutch lists, I guess, that you'll get from your normal Slaanesh. So you're not starting with like 2 keepers on the board, a bunch of chariots. It's just more so one of those games where, I guess, you're just there to have fun.
Yeah.
So, but you still have the tools to be competitive.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like with all those heroes there and the battalion that you're running to.
Yeah.
Like being able to farm the CP in the way that you're doing it in that list is really handy.
Yeah.
I also forgot. Sorry, everybody. I also forgot what the Godseeker's host does for you.
So Godseeker's host is +1 to charge, and then for every if 1 or 2 units charge, it's D3 depravity. if three or more units charge, it's D6.
D6, right.
Yeah. So it allows the knights to get +2 on their charge.
Yep.
It means when I'm summoning stuff on, it only needs an 8-inch charge.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier to get around the board.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my mistake for forgetting that. So, and how long do you see yourself using this? Like, is it something?
Not long.
Not long.
Not long.
Oh, this sounds like there's a project in the works.
Oh no, it's kind of like what I do with my daughters.
Yeah.
So one Sydney GT, because they're busted, and then I shelved them,
Yeah.
and then I played them twice in the last 12 months since the last Sydney GT.
Yeah.
And then Slaanesh is the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even going back, and I went, okay, well, let's try and scale it back and do mortals instead of doing like the crutch Slaanesh. Same kind of thing. It's the summoning that's screwed it.
Yeah.
But it's a fun list to play. I'm looking forward to a Slaves to Darkness army.
Well, apparently they are getting a book at some stage, so that'll be exciting. And thanks, Ham, you legend.
See you,
Ham's
babe.
on his way out. So I'll have to. Oh, there was another question I had for you too. Like, how are you finding the Rune events? There's so much fun and atmosphere and yelling.
Yeah.
And
As I've said all year, this was my event of the year last year, and it is again. So if you haven't been to a Runax, make sure you get down. It's a heap of fun.
Oh, yeah.
The food's great. There's a bar open the entire day.
It's awesome, and the atmosphere is good too. Like, you
Yeah,
can
exactly.
play competitive, but you're still having fun at the same time. And
Yeah, that's
you
it.
guys have heard people yelling and screaming about how when they bloody Slayer of Kings something off the table.
Yeah,
especially
Paulie.
when it's Marathi, especially when it's Marathi.
Yeah, that's it.
We had some interesting questions as well about like with Slayer of Kings, a keeper of secrets, whether it's gets the gravity points, which I don't think it does, and a lot of the chat people don't think it does because
What was
it's
that,
held
sorry?
instantly. So we had a.
Oh, when you Slayer or King something? No, it doesn't, because you're not doing the wounds.
That's right.
Yeah,
you're
just killing it. Yeah,
So there's been awesome questions like that have been popping up, which is really good too. So
Yeah,
it's,
it's one of those ones where you don't want Slayer Kings to go off because you want the depravity because it's 3 damage each.
Yeah, I was wondering when the big Chicky Babe was going to come out on the table. I'm glad that she made it out. I think you made the perfect decision to bring her out when you did, as well as those 20 demonettes as well.
Yeah, no, Zenith was absolutely awesome. He's an absolutely great sport. I was going to do the Enrapturous in 10, and then he's like, dude, Archaon's right there. You can summon from him. And I'm just like, I'm sick and I'm brain dead.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh yeah, right. I don't need to do that extra.
Oh man, and it's like just after 7 o'clock here. We've had a long day. Everybody, like not only have half of us been drinking, playing the games and stuff. We all know how exhausting that can be. Especially when it comes to the third game of the day. So it's a lot easier to make those mistakes. And that's why this community and this event's really good, because a lot of the players will remind you of stuff to help you. Because it's just
that team environment. It's not a competitive event.
That's right.
Everyone's here to have fun and play with war dollies.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I love about it. So please, people, we've got 88 players this year. So we want to keep going bigger and bigger every year. Make sure you get your butts in the gear, get your team organised for next year. And get some tickets when they come on order.
100% get in, guys.
They sell out quick. It's like a second CanCon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
heap of fun, guys. Definitely get in.
no worries. Well, thank you very much.
Awesome.
For
Thank you very
coming
much,
on.
Gemma.
I'll catch
I'm
up
sure
with
I'll
you
see you
later.
soon.
And good luck for tomorrow.
Cheers,
and I'll
guys.
Get Zenny on. I'll just have to try and hand wave Zenny to come on. And come up here. So sorry, everybody, to the waving down. So Zenny himself is coming up here. The champion from Cairns. Hey, Zenny.
Hello.
How are you going today?
Could have been better.
Could have been better.
Could have been better.
So tell me about the game, mate. What happened there?
It was interesting. Like, players kind of whiffed a bit
Yep.
against Archaon, even attacking twice.
Yes.
Only doing about 7 wounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I know the pain.
Yeah.
I feel the pain.
Yeah, playing players.
And I did recognise that you forgot to do something as well.
I did forget to do something, yeah.
What was that?
Oh, wait, what do you think of?
Well, I'm talking about the Dead Watch.
Yeah, I did forget that.
Man, I've done that before at a tournament, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh.
I'm not sure it would have done a whole lot against Archaon there.
No,
But-
it's still frustrating to yourself when you forget stuff like that. But
Yeah.
in these environments, it's funny at the same time because it doesn't really
I was kind of feeling the time pressure there. Like it was
Yeah.
like 10 minutes left when I was doing that.
Yeah.
So I kind of just skipped it over.
But I definitely can relate to that too because I've actually forgotten to summon stuff on before,
Yeah.
so I can definitely feel the mistakes being made. So, how long have you been playing Fek for? I didn't even realise you were playing.
Like 5 months.
5 months. Jesus, I'm like.
It's just recently.
Yeah. So, and how are you liking them?
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll stick to them for long. It's more for conversions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do some tweaks.
Yeah.
And like, because if no one really knows, Zenny is like the king of destruction. Like, you've been playing that for how long?
Ever.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
moving on to what sort of provokes them? Do you just want something to refresh? Why did you go with?
I don't know. I don't feel like there's massive conversions I can do with destruction.
Yeah.
But I'm liking like a darker aesthetic that you can get with death and chaos.
Yeah. Well, we've seen a couple of other people who've converted whole armies.
Yeah.
With like a Stormcast chaos sort of way as well, which they really look nice too. So I'll be looking forward to seeing something
Yeah.
that on your have. So, are you going to CanCon next year?
No, I won't be.
Oh man, you're like the
Skipping
fourth
that
person today that is not going that I've interviewed.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to seeing if you're going to make a new army or continue playing this or what.
No, it's hard to get down to from Cairns. 'Cause it's just expensive for flights getting to Canberra.
Yeah.
There is nothing
Unfortunately.
There is nothing stopping you leaving your stuff here.
Just had an
No
interruption,
liability
everybody,
will be
sorry.
taken, but it's a secure venue. They lock up as I walk out the door and they unlock as I walk in.
So,
Take
everybody-
what you will. I accept no responsibility.
Alright, so that was just Gabe explaining the leaving his stuff here. So, what was probably the best part for you with Fek? Was it obviously you enjoy converting, so you've done that on purpose with them?
Yeah.
Is that more of a thing for you other than playing? Like, do you
It is.
stuff-
It definitely is. Like, I've got armies I want to convert for, like, just ideas, and I have to try and work it out in my head. How can I do an army that looks really cool, but then have it not be completely garbage on the table?
Yeah. And so, like, with converting your Fek, did you just use other parts from other units on them, or did you actually take?
It was so for all the heads, they've got their heads are cut off for normal players, and then they've got an extended neck with a skull at the end.
Oh,
That's all been green stuff.
Yeah, wow.
That's on all of the flayers.
Yep.
And then the Terrorgeist has 2 sets of wings. It's in a different pose. Its head is extended and has a skull on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what about the Crypt Player, or the Infernal?
Infernals?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much similar, but they're all standing on something tall.
Yeah, because I found I got confused a lot of the time when I was trying to move the player hero.
Oh, it
because
gets confusing
not
when like,
player.
he's just sitting next to the 9.
Yeah.
And just move him accidentally.
Yeah, I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, that's actually the
Yeah.
the hero.
Yeah.
Because all he does is have like a second pair of wings, which are tiny.
I forgot to glue it on half of one, so that doesn't help either.
No, that doesn't help either. But, well then, I guess I should say good luck for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just quickly, how was the rest of the games today?
So game 1, I versed Brody.
Yep.
I'm not sure his last name. He was playing Iron Jaws.
Yep.
I got a good priority and won that
just
one.
standing over there.
It is.
Yep.
Game 2, I versed Matt Campbell.
Oh, with
From
the corn?
Yeah, I got really close to winning that one.
Yeah.
He only had Skullkeeper on the board at the end of the game,
Oh, wow.
and if he had died turn 5, I would have won.
Yep.
But that was really close
Just
as
has
well.
some luck.
Yeah. That's more players failing to hit.
Yeah, fours are just the worst sometimes,
Yeah,
aren't they?
they very much are. I did also have 2 double ones in that game to charge.
Oh, really? Oh, that's heartbreaking. That can cost you the game, that's for sure. Rightio,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to have to call it there because people are going to pack up and leave. I'm sure you want to probably get going and start drinking
get something
somewhere
like
at some stage.
Yeah.
And good luck for tomorrow.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'm sure we'll catch up again.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. I'll catch you later.
Yeah, cheers.
So everybody, that wraps up basically game 1 for our stream of the Rune Team Champions. So yes, thank you very much for your positive feedback with our stream. We surely appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow again for the last 2 games of the day, plus some interviews. So make sure you jump on tomorrow. We should be live probably between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. So jump on then. Support us, ask us questions, just keep us going with everything. That would be lovely. And as always, you guys have a fantastic night, and we look forward to seeing you guys all tomorrow. Bye.